Okay, we'll go ahead and call the May 13th meeting to order. If you're able, please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll clerk, Madam Clerk.
Mayor Pape.
Here.
Councilmember Shavetta.
Here.
Councilmember Hands.
Here.
Councilmember Caldwell.
Here.
Councilmember Leahy.
Here.
Councilmember Neal.
Here.
Councilmember Ryder.
Here.
Councilmember Silvers.
Here.
Councilmember Yodrich.
Here.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Next item up on this evening is the public items. And the members of the public are encouraged to use this time to make comments about matters that do not appear on the agenda. Comments about items on the regular agenda will be taken up as each item is considered. Please note, individuals making public comments will be limited to 5 minutes in accordance with governing body rules of procedure. The city reserves the right to refuse public comments that are personal, impertinent, or slanderous. We had a sign-up sheet outside where a lot of people have currently already signed up. Most of these people are on the Flags for Freedom, which will be taken up later in the meeting. So if that's one of the things that you're here to speak about, you will get the opportunity at that time. But I do have one individual that says they're here for something different, and that is Kathy Huffman, who is here to talk about it. And if you could come forward and, for the record, give us your name and address for our record.
Want to do it first?
Katie Hoffman. I live in Lenexa. Do you want my street address?
Yes, please.
8456 Mauer Road, apartment 817, Lenexa.
Thank you, ma'am.
And I'm Norman Kahn, 8340 Cedar Street, Prairie Village, Kansas. Although my son, his wife, and my three grandsons under the age of 4 live here in Merriam.
Okay.
So we get to do a lot with Merriam. We're here representing the Johnson County contingent to the Kansas Silver-Haired Legislature, and our purpose is informational. Katie's going to hand out a one-pager that describes us, and I'll take a minute to describe the Silver-Haired Legislature. In 1969, all states were authorized the opportunity, and in 1982, Kansas took the opportunity to create a Silver-Haired Legislature. There are elected legislators from each county, one from each county, except the 4 largest counties get 6. So Johnson County has 6. Katie and I are 2 of those 6, and we're going around to all of the city councils of all of the cities in Johnson County to explain what the Silver-Haired Legislature is. We represent the interests of seniors over the age of 60. We have a process each year that takes a year whereby each county discusses the issues that are important to seniors in their county. In the summer, then we process that on a Zoom call, and in the fall, we actually go to the legislature, and we're sworn in by the Secretary of State, and we sit in the Kansas House for 3 days in the committee rooms, and we create bills for the legislature. And this year, in 2024, there are 5 priorities, and they include Medicaid expansion, establishing an advisory board to explore medical cannabis, not recreational marijuana, but medical cannabis, supporting voting rights of seniors, expanding the Grandparents as Caregivers Act, and tax reform that would make it easier for seniors to manage their property taxes, and elimination of tax on Social Security for seniors, and so on. One interesting point, and then I'll see if Katie would like to add to this. Of those 5 priorities that I mentioned, think of this, there are 105 counties in Kansas, 4 of which get 6 legislators, the others get only 1. When we went to our meeting in October in Topeka, and we put out these priorities that we'd all been working on all across the state for a year and voted on them, with the exception of the Medical Cannabis Advisory Board, which had a couple of unsure votes, all of the others were unanimous, including Medicaid expansion was unanimous. Despite the fact that most of the legislators are from rural counties, it's just a sign of how important it is for people in the state of Kansas to have expansion of Medicaid. For seniors, it's mainly people the age of 60 above until they get on Medicare. But there are a lot of folks who fall into that gap, and that's why it's one of our priorities. So you can see, you all have a copy of this now. Katie handed it out, what the priorities are. And again, our purpose here is just to be informational. I'll let Katie add anything she'd like, and then we'll take any questions you might have. And we certainly appreciate all the attention we got tonight.
Thank you, Norm. We're happy to be here. Most of the people in the county and over the state have not heard of the Silver-Haired Legislature. It is a statewide organization, so some of our issues do not really pertain to Johnson County. We have a lot here, but we still have needs. So, for example, in the western part of our state, they don't have broadband, and we have a lot of opportunities here. And transportation is another issue that we have here as well as across the state. We are just going to find out if there are people who are interested in giving us suggestions for statewide issues for our next session. And we hope that people will. The information's on here, and we welcome ideas for our next session. Thank you. Does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, at this time, we'll reach back out to you if we have questions. This is pretty much an opportunity for the public to come forward and make comments. So, but we appreciate both of you coming in today, and definitely we have your information, and we'll reach out if we need to.
Thank you for hearing us.
Thank you, Mayor Pape.
Thank you. Okay. Okay, most of these I'm seeing moving on here are all blue line flags and flags for freedom. Is there anybody that has something to say that isn't on the agenda that would like to come forward at this time? Okay, go ahead, sir, come forward give us your name and address for the record.
Billy Crone, 6633 Wed Street. I want to read you a quotation, some wise words. In recognition of the fact that a representative government is dependent upon an informed electorate, it is declared to be the policy of this state that meetings for the conduct of governmental affairs and the transaction of governmental business be open to the public. As you know, I attend a lot of city council meetings and a lot of other meetings and committee meetings around the city, and I do this to stay informed of what my government's up to and to share that with my neighbors. Every couple of years, every year generally, I make a request to be notified of new meetings that come along. They're not necessarily all on the website, though I've been told that's the case. The Flags for Freedom Committee became a city-owned thing, and I believe subject to Tacoma because now it's funded by the city and it's a city-coordinated operation. But I was never notified of that meeting. I dearly wanted to attend to observe the conversation that had occurred that has brought so many people here tonight. I wish in the future you announce more meetings and allow the public to attend per Coma. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Crone. Okay, does anyone else have anything they'd like to speak to this evening that is not going to be coming up on our agenda? Okay, I see no one coming forward at this time. I will close out the public items then, and we'll move on to the consent agenda. All items listed under this heading are considered to be routine by the City Council and may be enacted by one motion. There'll be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member so requests, in which that case that item may be removed. Considering we only have one item on the consent agenda, does anyone have anything they'd like to discuss before I entertain a motion? Okay, I see nobody raising a hand. I would entertain a motion for approval. Ms. Haynes.
Mr. Mayor, I move that the council approve consent agenda item number 1.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I hear a second? Go ahead, Ms. Shadridge.
Mr. Mayor, second.
Madam Clerk, we have a motion and a second.
Councilmember Shavetta.
Aye.
Councilmember Hands.
Aye.
Councilmember Caldwell.
Aye.
Councilmember Leahy.
Aye.
Councilmember Neal.
Aye.
Councilmember Ryder.
Aye.
Councilmember Silvers.
Aye.
Councilmember Yodridge.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Next item up on the agenda this evening is the mayor's report, at which opportunity I get to talk about proclamations. Considering we only have one meeting this month, you get the proclamations from this meeting and the proclamations you would have heard at our next meeting. But I would like to share those with you at this time. whereas emergency medical services is a vital public service and the members of the Overland Park Fire Department Emergency Medical Services teams are ready to provide life-saving care to those in need 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And whereas they engage in thousands of hours of specialized training and continuing education to enhance their life-saving skills, and whereas access to quality emergency care dramatically improves the survival and recovery rate of those who experience sudden illness or injury, and whereas emergency medical services has helped fill a gap by providing important out-of-hospital care, including response to the acutely ill, injured, and those with chronic health needs, and whereas the emergency medical services system consists of first responders, emergency medical technicians and dispatchers, paramedics, firefighters, police officers, physicians, nurses, educators, administrators, and other out-of-hospital medical care providers. And whereas it is appropriate to recognize the value and the accomplishments of emergency medical service providers, now therefore I, Bob Pate, by the virtue of the authority vested in me as the mayor of Merriam, Kansas, do hereby proclaim May 19th through the 25th as Emergency Medical Services Week with the theme EMS Week, celebrating 50 years of EMS. I encourage the community to observe this week with appropriate programs, ceremonies, and activities proclaimed on the 13th day of May, 2024, Bob Pate, Mayor. I know we have a couple people in our audience. I know the EMS chief, Angela Caruso-Yan, and has several of her other employees that are here. I'd like to let you come forward. I don't know that you necessarily, if you want to speak, you're welcome to, but I'd like to present you with this proclamation and for a photo opportunity. Please invite your crew too. Squeeze in the back here. Let you hold that. Okay, thank you, guys. Okay, we have 6 proclamations, so I'm going to count that as my exercise today. Okay, the next proclamation is, whereas this marks the 64th Annual National Public Works Week sponsored by the American Public Works Association with the theme Advancing Quality of Life for All, and whereas public works professionals focus on infrastructure, facilities, and services that are vitally important to the high quality of life and well-being of the residents and visitors of our nation and the city of Merriam. And whereas the dedicated efforts of public works professionals are responsible for rebuilding, improving, and protecting our nation's transportation, water supply, water treatment, solid waste systems, public buildings, and other structures and facilities essential for our citizens. And whereas it is in the public's interest for the residents and visitors in the city of Merriam to learn and understand the importance of public works and public works programs in their community. And whereas in the city of Merriam, I urge all citizens to pay tribute to our public works professionals, engineers, managers, and employees and recognize the substantial contributions they make protecting our health, safety, and quality of life. Now therefore, I, Bob Pate, by the virtue of the authority vested in me as the mayor of Merriam, Kansas, do hereby proclaim May 19th through the 25th, 2024 as National Public Works Week, proclaimed on this 13th day of May, Bob Pate, Mayor. And I understand we have Director Kumpke, and I don't know if you have staff with you, but I'd like to present this to you as well. Okay, by the fork. Okay. You close it. We like each other. All right, thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Okay, moving right along. Whereas the monarch butterfly is an iconic North American species whose multi-generational migration and metamorphosis from caterpillar to butterfly has captured the imaginations of millions of Americans, and whereas we, the undersigned mayors and heads of local or tribal government, are deeply concerned about the decline of the monarch butterfly population due to the deterioration and loss of summer breeding habitat in the U.S. and the winter habitat in California and south central Mexico. And whereas cities, counties, and communities play a critical role in helping save the monarch butterfly by providing habitats at public parks and community gardens and hosting events such as community workshops and native plant giveaways to educate residents about the cultural significance of monarchs. And whereas we recognize the importance of creating monarch and pollinator habitats in parks, gardens, and other green spaces for our community to enjoy. Now therefore, I, Bob Pape, by the virtue of the authority vested in me as the mayor of Merriam, Kansas, do hereby proclaim, hereby take the pledge and commit to helping restore the monarch habitat and encourage our residents to do the same, so these magnificent butterflies will once again flourish across the continent. Proclaim the 13th day of May, 2024, Bob Pape, Mayor. And my understanding is we have no monarchs in the audience today, so we won't be getting a photo opportunity of that one. But yes. We do have, I was just informed, and she had told me this before, the city does provide seeds that you can actually get free. You just come to, I assume City Hall is where we come. Is that the correct location? I believe. Okay, yes. We got a confirmation from Jenna. If you would like to have any seeds to help pollinate the monarchs. Okay, the next item up is Jewish American Heritage Month is an annual celebration of generations of Jewish Americans who have helped weave the fabric of American history, culture, and society. And whereas Jewish Americans have created lives for themselves and their families and played indispensable roles in our nation's civic and community life, making invaluable contributions to our nation through their leadership and achievements. And whereas the Jewish community continues to be targeted in the United States and is consistently the most likely of all religious groups to be victimized by incidents of hate. And whereas anti-Semitism, including harassment based on actual or perceived Jewish origin, ancestry, ethnicity, identity, affiliation, or faith, remains a persistent and disturbing problem in America's society. And whereas Jewish Americans have made crucial contributions to our collective struggle for a more just and fair society, leading movements for social justice and working to ensure that the opportunities they have secured are extended to others. Now therefore, I, Bob Pape, by the virtue of the authority vested in me as the mayor of Merriam, Kansas, do hereby proclaim May 2024 as Jewish American Heritage Month, proclaimed this 13th day of May 2024, Bob Pape, Mayor. I don't think I have anyone except for that. Very important, part of our segment of our society. Okay, next. Whereas the National League of Cities was founded in 1924 in Lawrence, Kansas, as the American Municipal Association by state municipal leagues seeking more coordination and national representation of cities, towns, and villages, expanded rapidly, and whereas the nonpartisan National League of Cities is the oldest and largest organization representing municipal governments throughout the United States, representing more than 19,000 cities, towns, and villages across the country. And whereas, as the voices of cities, towns, and villages in Washington, D.C., the National League of Cities has successfully championed federal legislative solutions that support municipalities and has worked closely with Congress and the executive branch to educate policymakers on the realities of local implementation. And whereas local governments are the bedrock of American democracy, providing 336 million residents with the most accountable, responsive, inclusive, ethical, and transparent government in the world. And whereas Merriam is a proud member of the National League of Cities and has benefited from the organization's research, technical expertise, federal advocacy, and opportunities to learn from other local governments. And whereas Merriam was first incorporated in 1950 and is proudly served today by 9 elected officials and a municipal workforce of 90 dedicated public servants. Now therefore, I, Bob Pape, by the virtue of the authority vested in me as the mayor of Merriam, Kansas, do hereby proclaim May 2024 as National Cities, Towns, and Villages Month in celebration of America's local governments and the National League of Cities historic centennial anniversary. Proclaimed on this 13th day of May 2024, Bob Pape, Mayor. Has anyone seen this? Just for all you guys. I'll get to you later. All right, last but not least. Whereas every day, 120 Americans are killed by gun violence and more than 200 are shot and wounded with an average of nearly 18,000 gun homicides every year. And whereas Americans are 26 times more likely to die by gun homicide than people in other high-income countries, and whereas support for the Second Amendment rights of law-abiding citizens goes hand in hand with keeping guns away from people with dangerous histories, and whereas in January 2013, Hadia Pendleton was shot and killed at age 15, and on June 7, 2024, to recognize her 27th birthday, people across the nation wear orange in tribute to Hadia and other victims of gun violence and loved ones of those victims. And whereas to help raise awareness about gun violence and honor the lives of gun violence victims and survivors, we pledge our commitment to do all we can to reduce gun violence across our community. Now therefore, I, Bob Pape, by the virtue of the authority vested in me as the mayor of Merriam, Kansas, do hereby proclaim June 7th, 2024 to be National Gun Violence Awareness Day. I encourage all citizens to support our community's efforts to help prevent the tragic effects of gun violence and to honor and value human lives. Proclaimed on this 13th day of May, 2024, Bob Pape, Mayor. And I understand we do have an individual that's going to come forward, I think, to Jody.
Jody, very
Jody.
good. Just a brief explanation that Wear Orange started on June 2nd, 2015, what would have been Hadia Pendleton's 18th birthday. Just 1 week after performing at President Obama's second inaugural parade in 2013, Hadia was shot and killed at the age of 15. In the aftermath of Hadia's murder, teenagers in Chicago wore orange to honor their friend. Orange was the color worn because it is typically the color used by hunters to alert others not to shoot. Now, Wear Orange honors Hadia and more than 120 people who are shot and killed every day in the United States, as well as hundreds more who are wounded and countless others who are traumatized by acts of gun violence. As a resident of Merriam, I want to thank you for the Wear Orange 2024 proclamation.
Okay, thank you. And I think we're going to have a photo op. I'm going to present this and want the whole crew to come forward. Give that to you and I'll shake your hand. Okay, we got it? Okay, thank you. Okay. Okay, that is the last of my proclamations, but I do have a few other things as part of the mayor's report. I always like to take this opportunity or time to talk about what some of the other things that are occurring in our community that our council people and myself has attended during the last couple weeks. I'll go over these rather quickly. I and Councilmember Ryder gave blood at the Merriam Community Center, Merriam Church, Christian Church, and not the community center. There are several other blood drives going on. If you have not given blood, please do so. That's a life-saving opportunity. I attended the Advent Healthcare Cancer Center dinner and tour on a Wednesday evening, and then got to go to the grand opening on the next day, along with on Friday with Councilmembers Hands, Caudill, and Neal. Attended that meeting, and several of our city staff attended as well too. Great cancer center, one of the premier cancer centers here in the metro area, one of only 6 in the United States that has some a MRI-guided laser or cancer equipment is what it is. But I attended the Tim Murphy Art Gallery opening. I'm not sure if anyone else was down there. Oh yes, Councilmember Ryder was there. I did see you as I was leaving. I attended the Johnson County Kiwanis meeting. I met with Jenna and Caitlin, and we produced a video inviting everyone to attend our Turkey Creek Festival, which is coming up this Saturday, if you're not aware of it, over at Antioch Park between the hours of 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. We hope to see you there. There's also a 5K that's occurring that morning, and a pancake breakfast, I understand. So I attended the Johnson County Criminal Advisory Committee meeting at the county administration offices. I currently represent the Johnson County Mayor's Group. As you can probably guess, the use of fentanyl is up on the rise. We also were shared a survey of what's important to people in the county. It turns out affordable housing is really important to people, but they feel like we're missing the mark on that. Mr. Engel and I met with Dr. Tammy Bartonek, who's a Senator Marshall's staff. She meets with us quarterly to talk about any of our concerns here in the city of Merriam. I attended the employees' luncheon at Brown Memorial Park. It's always good to break bread with staff. Did some of the other council attend that? Was it? Okay, I didn't remember seeing anyone there. I was too busy eating. I and Councilmember Yodrich met with Mr. Engel to develop tonight's agenda. And Councilmember Severs attended our Public Art Committee meeting. We appreciate you for representing our staff on that as well. That's all I have for the mayor's report at this time. Okay, I know we are now down to that part of the meeting that I think most of you are here for, and that's a Flags for Freedom update. Mr. Engel is coming to the podium, I think, to give us that.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. The item before you this evening is an update of the annual Flags for Freedom display that the city will be assuming control of this year for the first year. As a background, an annual flag display has occurred in our community since 2006. It started out as, I believe, the first healing field in Kansas and has morphed into what we all lovingly call Flags for Freedom, well appreciated and attended event in our community. So Flags for Freedom has been a volunteer-led and volunteer sponsored event since 2006 for about 12,000 to 15,000 flags get displayed during that event. I think varying from year to year. It's usually centers at the marketplace, but it has spilled out into streets and moved up IKEA Way. It's on Shawnee Mission Parkway some years. It is also, it's been over in the Irene B. French Community Center when that exists, and I think we have a few flags that we fly over at the community center. But on average, about 1,200 flags get flown for that event. Up until the first 12 years of that event, only U.S. American flags were flown at that event, and for individual recognition, a yellow ribbon could be sponsored by a member of the public, any member of the public, and special recognition could be pinned to an American flag for a variety of honorable reasons. Starting in 2018, blue line flags were started to be displayed. They were bought by according to some reports, an anonymous donor, and five blue line flags were displayed to honor 5 recent, back to 1/1 of 16, officers that had been, law enforcement officers that had been slain in the line of duty. So those 5 flags have since grown to, I believe, 7 flags. It's important to point out that those flags, I don't know, because this was citizen-led and not a city committee, I don't know what the process was of bringing those flags on board and flying them, but as a citizen event, citizen-sponsored event, they have been there since 2018. It's also important to point out again that the city does not own those flags. Those flags are owned by, again, a donor. We have not assumed control of those. I don't know that the Flags for Freedom Committee had ownership of them, so when we assumed all of the assets of Flags for Freedom, we did not take ownership of them. So again, we don't have them. I have been told that if the committee were to do away with the blue line flags, those blue line flags would be removed. So if we were to do anything to honor fallen officers or officers otherwise that require blue line flags, and it's not at Flags for Freedom, we will likely have to purchase blue line flags. So starting in 2013, or actually in 2013 after the annual event, the committee, after several years of having a little bit tougher time facilitating that event, came to the city after the event last year and asked if the city, after a vote that they had at the committee, came and asked the city if they would assume formal control and turn this into a city event. As part of the due diligence, we hosted a group work session with volunteers that had put on that event, as well as city council members, as well as staff. The intent of that was to make sure that expectations were clear, that we could talk about the event, and make sure that the members of the committee that have put so much sweat, blood, tears, devotion into that event could convey their future vision of the ongoing event to the council, and council could convey that to staff, so we can make sure that we can deliver that type of an event each year for our residents, and more than our residents, for the metro area. At that event, a council member brought up the blue line flags in terms of if this is a city event, are blue line flags appropriate at that event, if it's just American flags and blue line flags. There could be a variety of reasons that was the topic of discussion coming out of that, but we decided that, hey, that is not relevant for moving the process forward of assuming control. But what we did is we pledged to the council that the committee, if the council took control of Flags for Freedom, would have a future conversation during the planning for the 24 event to discuss the blue line flags, and we would bring them back to the council. That is what we are doing tonight. We are sharing what has come out of the committee conversation relative to blue line flags. So the topic was discussed, from my perspective, very meaningfully. The last several meetings, I think it was discussed, and the committee members asked, hey, can we delay this? We want to do a little bit more research. We want to ask some more questions about it. We really want to get to the bottom of all of this. They came back on April 18th. I think there was a motion to keep the flags that did not pass. So there was a subsequent motion to just stick to the U.S. flags and go back to yellow ribbons, I believe, in terms of honoring individuals at that event. And that passed 4-2 of the voting members that were at that meeting. So the issue before you this evening is, does the council want to concur with the recommendation of the committee to not have blue line flags at that event? That doesn't preclude it being in any other events. I've brought up on my agenda, or on the agenda form, there's possibilities for us to honor officers, all law enforcement, all first responders in another time and venue that doesn't mix with Flags for Freedom, keeps Flags for Freedom what it was for the first 12 years. That's clearly something the council could choose to talk about or not. I think as I've considered this issue, I think it might be useful for the council to view it through one of two lenses. There's the political lens, or there's the administrative lens. The political lens is the lens that's really going to be values-based. It's interpretive. And I think the values, the political end is, I think that's what the folks here this evening, they want to discuss. They want to discuss the political aspect of this event and blue line flags. They want their perspectives validated. I'm here to tell you that their perspectives are very valid. They're going to get up here and they're going to share with you that these flags represent honor and valor and sacrifice, and they're right. Every single person that talks about that is correct. But I don't think that that's actually the topic of conversation, at least not from my perspective. From my perspective, the topic of conversation that's getting lost in all of this is the administrative piece of this. And I'm going to explain what that means. Administrative is from a process, from a procedure, from a function. I mean, you know, the boring planning stuff that I and my staff are tasked with doing. Administering this event, administering this program, assuming all of the things that come along with the blue line flags, and carrying them forward in a way that we can justify, that we can say, here is why we do this, and this makes sense. And to me, I think that's the more relevant, from a staff perspective, selfishly speaking for myself, is the more relevant conversation, not the political one. The way I look at this is year one of a new event. This is, the city is assuming control, and we are setting precedent for Flags for Freedom. What does it mean? What do we want it to mean? What does it not mean? What do we not want it to mean? How are we going to carry that forward into the future? And I think that it's a little, I would approach this as a new event, which is how I have tried to unwind this in my head. If you were to come to me and say, we want to have an event that honors those that have made the ultimate sacrifice for residents, for their country, for their people, this is what I would not do. As the city administrator, I would not come to you and say, this should only be about police officers. I would not come to you and say, this should only be about police officers in some sort of hazy, ill-defined geographic region. I would not come to you and say this should be only about police officers in this hazy, ill-defined geographic region, and only those that have made the ultimate sacrifice since the 1st of January 2016. I would not do that. We are the city, and we don't just pick little pieces like that. So to me, it's an all or nothing proposition. To me, we have to have some sort of base to say, why are we honoring these 7? Which if we continue to honor these 7, which have given the ultimate sacrifice, it's not debatable. But it's really 8 now because we have the officer that unfortunately was killed in Fairway. And that's, in 8 years, we have 8. That's 1 a year, right? So we're gonna have potentially 1 next year and the next year and the next year. How do we address someone that comes in and says, someone made a sacrifice in 2015? Someone made a sacrifice in 2014. How do we address the fact that we've had people that have, in Casey Moe, James Muehlbauer, he died on February 13th of 2013, or I'm sorry, of 2023. We're not honoring him. Is it because he's in Missouri? I don't have an answer for that, but I think as the city, we have to come up with an answer for it. I think we have to say, why is it Wyandotte and KCK? Why is it not firefighters? Jason Garrett is a firefighter and paramedic in KCK. We honor police officers in KCK, but he died on December 26th of 2017. I don't know that we're honoring him in that method. I don't know that we're honoring Technical Trooper Kent Eugene Newport, who's Kansas Highway Patrol. They have I-35 runs right through our community. I don't know that he didn't know our community intimately and protect many of our residents from harm, but we're not honoring him. I also don't think that I would have a good answer if the family of Jonathan Walker, who was an Army major, who is from Merriam, who died in Qatar in 2014, came in and said, how are you honoring this resident who was a Merriam resident? I don't have an answer for that. So for me, staff who will be tasked with carrying forward this event, I find it problematic that we don't have a clearly defined how do we honor this, how do we accomplish this mission going forward and not look backward? And if we look backward, how far do we look back? Do we go back to 2006 when Flags for Freedom started? Do we go back to October 28th, 1950 when our city was founded? We're not honoring people that were Merriam employees. We're not honoring people that were Merriam residents necessarily, at least we aren't yet. So how do we treat that? So for me, from an administrative standpoint, that's the issue. It's not the issue of how do we define what blue line flags mean, because I don't think that's a winning argument. How do we define blue line flags is arguing perspective and hearts and minds. That's not something that I think any of us want to do because there's no wrong answer in that. So to me, the larger conversation is, can we administratively carry this program forward? And if so, is this the right way to do it? Is this the right place to do it, Flags for Freedom? And do we want to do it this way? That would be what I hope that I would get out of this conversation, not what we think blue line flags mean to us as individuals. I'm going to go sit down and turn this over to the mayor and let him sort through all of this.
Before you leave, Mr. Engel, is there any questions for Mr. Engel before he returns to his chair? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Engel. Okay, I have quite an extensive list here of people that would like to speak to this topic, and I will just start down the list as it's been signed up. If you did not get the opportunity to sign up this, I will ask at the end, after the last person, excuse me, has had the opportunity to speak, to still come forward, so don't worry about that. But, and some of you I know are from families, and so if the whole family wants to come up at the same time, that would be permissible. They actually haven't all signed up at the same time, but I would entertain that as well. I will like to go back and read this one more time, but this still is pertinent, but you're encouraged to make the comments that, and be limited to 5 minutes, okay? So each person will have the opportunity to speak up to 5 minutes. As you may have seen earlier, we have a time clock up there on the, and I will try to give you a 1 minute notice if you do happen to take the full time. You're not obligated to speak for a full 5 minutes, but if you do, that's fine, but I will have to cut you off at 5 minutes. And so I would also go, because you can see the number of people here, and I know this is a very passionate topic. Would try to refrain from clapping or cheering or having some sort of outbreak or outburst itself, because we want to have everybody, we want to be able to hear everyone, for one thing, and what they have to say, because it's all important. And two, we want to try to expedite this and take the time it needs, but let's not drag it on, okay, by those type of actions. Okay, well, the first person I have on this list is Marcia Rohr. And if you would like to come forward, and any of your family I know would like to come forward at this time, you will each, if you each want 5 minutes, have the opportunity to speak. Okay. And as a reminder for the record, please give your name and address for the record,
Okay.
so that we know.
Marcia Rohr, 6308 Crestview Drive, Shawnee. As I just said, my name is Marcia Rohr, and my son was Wyandotte County Sheriff's Deputy Patrick Rohr, and he and his partner Teresa King were brutally killed in June of 2018. And as I understand it, they are among the first of the blue line flags to be displayed in your Flags for Freedom. Since 2016, as the city administrator said, there have been 7 on the Kansas side of the metro area that were killed due to violence. And that's not from disease, that's from violence. For the families, these displays, such as Merriam offers, are a place of remembrance and peace. And it's similar to a cemetery. The flag with their loved one's name is similar to a headstone. They may not have another place to visit. They may only have the flag. The thinking behind some of this politically might be prejudicial, as prejudicial as some accuse the police of being. And that's somehow worse because the flags that these officers that are represented, these officers are men and women that are dead. They died in the service of their communities. And this is just disrespectful and shameful as viewed by the families. If this display should be about honor and respect, these men and women deserve enough not to hide their flags away in an area that's not readily visible to the public. And the final indignity is that you are voting on this during National Police Week, a time set aside to honor law enforcement. And those are the men and women that run toward danger when the rest of us run away. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Moore. Okay. And please give your name and address for the record.
I'm Sarah Rohr. Do you need an address or anything? We're on the back.
Okay. Yes, please. It helps our city clerk just to track everyone.
32250 West 166th Street in Gardner.
Thank you.
Good evening, council members. My name is Sarah Rohr, and I am the wife of fallen officer Patrick Rohr. Yesterday, Sunday, May 12th, was the first day of National Police Week. This week-long observance is an opportunity for law enforcement and survivors and families of the fallen and community members to come together to pay tribute for those who have made the ultimate sacrifice and to show their appreciation for the men and women who have dedicated their lives to keeping our communities safe. Instead of being in Washington, D.C., working through my own grieving process, I am here in Merriam, Kansas, speaking out against the removal of fallen officers' thin blue line flags. I am here to speak for the voiceless. My late husband, Patrick Rohr, was a deputy sheriff for Wyandotte County Sheriff's Office, and he was murdered on June 15th, 2018. Patrick and I started our roots right here in Merriam. We purchased our first house just north of here on 53rd Street. This is a city where we brought both of our children home to after they were in the hospitals. This was also the city that my family has volunteered at for numerous events, from tattooing Halloween tattoos on kids for that event, to helping with the car show, to also the 17+ years my father has been Santa for this community. It came to my attention that there were council members who voted on removing the flags due to a range of reasons, from politics and other things. And when I read the words "less than honorable" in the City of Merriam agenda regarding the flags that fly for the officers who died protecting our cities, I was not only heartbroken, but I was disgusted. What is more honorable than what each of those officers did by sacrificing their lives to protect us? That thin blue line represents the idea that law enforcement officers are the barrier that stands between chaos and order. They are the line that separate the law-abiding citizens against those who seek to do us harm. The symbol does not represent a specific race. It doesn't represent a political standing. It is a symbol of courage and dedication. The flags that have flown each year at the Flags for Freedom event have individual names on them, so there can be no misinterpretation of why they are there. Each year, hundreds of people do come to see those flags, including myself and my children. You say this event was organized to be a healing field, and the first one in Kansas. When my kids and I go and sit under his flag, and I get to talk about their father, what is more healing than that? So why remove the flags when they are serving the purpose that they were started for? By taking the stance to remove those flags, you are creating a division and not the unity you all speak about wanting to ensure for your city. You cannot have unity without having our thin blue line community. Patrick will never see our kids graduate. He will not be there when Connor becomes an Eagle Scout. He will not be there to walk Emma down the aisle, and I will not be able to grow old with the man who was my best friend and supposed to spend the rest of my life with. So much had happened in my life that has been out of my control. But one thing I can control is asking each of you to put your personal politics aside and remember the names of each officer who has a flag representing them. Detective Brad Lancaster, end of watch, May 9th, 2016, cause gunfire. Captain Robert Melton, end of watch, July 19th, 2016, cause gunfire. Deputy Brandon Collins, end of watch, September 11th, 2016, cause vehicular assault. Deputy Sheriff Patrick Rohr, end of watch, June 15th, 2018, cause gunfire. Deputy Teresa King, end of watch, June 16th, 2018, cause gunfire. Deputy Robert Kunze, end of watch, September 16th, 2018, cause gunfire. Officer Michael Mosher, end of watch, May 3rd, 2020, cause gunfire. And Officer Jonah Oswald does have a flag. And end of watch, August 7th, 2023, cause gunfire. Please stand with me to keep those flags flying because we can never forget the sacrifices each of those officers have made.
Thank you, Sarah. Please give your name and address, please.
Emma Rohr, 32250 West 166th Street. Good evening to the members of Merriam City Council. My name is Emma Rohr. I'm 15 and currently a freshman in high school. Thank you for all for allowing me to come here and talk. It has been 5 years, 333 days, and 3,110,400 minutes since my father's untimely murder. Every single moment since then, I have had to bear the weight of my grief for him, feeling as if something was missing from every single vacation, holiday, or school day, and a void had consumed something that I once knew. The loss I've undergone cannot be fixed or filled. It continues to consume my every waking moment. No one can understand how much time I've lost without him, and how much I will miss him. His death had a large impact on me and what I could have had. My father will never see the hard work I pull off at school with my grades and my high GPA. He'll never see me work on tech backstage, on a musical, or on stage. He'll never see me play tennis on JV or sing in choir. He'll never see me graduate high school and college. Every single accomplishment I make, he'll never see. The Blue Line flag has an important meaning to me. It's part of my father's legacy that continues to live on, even though he's not with me. This simple gesture is a way that my father still lives on, and his sacrifice will never be forgotten. I do not want it taken away from me. Within the Thin Blue Line, I have found a family. They showed up when I needed it most. They came to school daddy-daughter dances and my middle school graduation, and are even standing with me today behind me. The Thin Blue Line represents every single officer who puts his life on the line every single day for our community and for the ones who gave the ultimate sacrifice. Each flag represents the men and women in this state who took up an oath to protect and serve the community and lost their lives in the process. These flags honor the legacy of them and the many other officers who currently serve. I have attended the Flags for Freedom event every single year after they added the blue line flags when I was 9 for my father and the other police officers who died in the line of duty. I've gone every single year to honor those who have given up their lives for an important cause to protect others from danger and have given their lives to do so. Here's where I leave you with a simple question. Why should the flag, which is a small and simple gesture of the remembrance of my dead father, be taken away? Why should one of the only sides of what my father gave be taken away? Why is honoring the dead a bad message?
Thank you. Please give your name. Thank you.
My name is Connor Orr.
Same address.
Okay, that's fine.
My father was a fallen officer, Patrick Orr, EOW, June 15th, 2018. My father was kind, happy, and always had a smile on his face. Not a day goes by that I do not miss the sound of my father's jokes, the feel of his hugs, and the sight of him coming home each evening. It is an outrage some people want the flags gone. Being a police officer means everything. Every day, you do your job hoping that you see your family again. No one should ever have the feeling that they might not make it home to their families and hope that they live another day. Each flag out there flying in the wind represents an officer who never got to see their family again. They died defending the cities, our families, our country. Therefore, they should deserve all the respect they can get. And one thing is that you can do is keep the flags. I ask you tonight to keep those flags flying every single year. I hope to never see a year without them flying.
Thank you. Okay. Looks like the next person on the list would be Catherine Case. We have
6000 West 71st Street, Overland Park, Kansas. My name is Catherine Cost. I moved here to Merriam in 1977. My 83-year-old mother still lives right up the hill. I live within 2 miles of this very spot. I don't speak publicly very often. I prefer to let my actions speak to my character. But it has come to my attention that there's a notion to remove the blue line flags from the Fields for Freedom event, and I will not be silent when it comes to showing respect to our fallen officers. I would bet that a majority of council members, and quite possibly a significant number of the people that are in the audience today, they don't have and they don't meet the criteria, the ethos, or the backbone that it takes to be an officer. And we hold our officers to higher standards, and apparently to some on this city council, they're not held to the same standards. Merriam has been the scene of some particularly significant incidents in the last few years, and I can guarantee you that those officers didn't stop to think if they were black, white, or purple. They're the ones who were administering Narcan to your son or daughter when they overdosed. They were the ones that are pulling your husband or wife out of a car on the side of the highway. They're the ones who were desperately performing CPR on your mom or dad. They're there to render service on your worst day. And they do it with a calmness and a grace that goes beyond most people's abilities. This is not just about Merriam. This is the Fields of Freedom event. It's open for anyone to attend, and people come from all over to see an awesome display of flags. They come to pay respects to every man and woman who has fought to protect our freedom. And part of what makes America great is that those men and women come from all races, colors, and religions. They answer to calling. Police work these days is a calling. Merriam has been lucky to never have a line of duty death, and I hope to God they never do. There are flags that have been flown for Wyandotte County Deputy Patrick Rohr and Teresa King, Johnson County Deputy Brandon Collins, and Overland Park Officer Mike Mosier, who we buried exactly 4 years ago today. Sadly, there will be a flag for Officer Oswald. To the average citizen, saying thank you for your service does not seem sufficient to recognize these sacrifices. Those thin blue line flags are our quiet reminders of the men and women who chose to serve our communities. I find it somewhat ironic that the original name for this display was the Healing Fields, meant to provide comfort and strength to all who needed it. Because what I see right now is a small cadre of people hell-bent on dividing and causing conflict where there is none. There are some on this council who have it in their minds that the thin blue line is a representation of political ideologies, racism, and intolerance, and they could be no more wrong. Some of you on this council will cower and pander to those who want to make this a political and racial issue because in our current society it is deemed fashionable to be offended by everything and stay in a state of perpetual victimhood. Some of you will vote against your own beliefs and better judgments to remove these flags because you are too afraid to stand up on what is right. You were elected by them represent the members of your ward. You were not elected so that you could inject your personal beliefs and opinions and make Merriam your own personal playground. It is your job to cast the vote that accurately reflects the views of your constituents. By and large, a majority of people support our officers and recognize the solemn significance of that blue line flag. Have you actually gone out and talked to your constituents? Have you knocked on the doors? Because somehow I doubt it. So much for the facilitate better communication between the city and its citizens, part of the agenda goals and objectives that were on there for tonight. As I stated in the beginning of my comments, my 83-year-old mother still resides in the house we bought when we moved here 44 years ago. My mother is Carol Whitlock. She proudly served the Merriam Planning Commission for 31 years. I haven't been able to speak to her about this matter because I cannot in good conscience burden her due to her health.
Ms. Costa, you have 30 seconds.
Thank
please.
you. I will say that as her daughter, I know she would be absolutely appalled at the attitudes and lack of respect being shown to our law enforcement officers. She would tell you that you should be embarrassed and ashamed to even entertain the removal of a symbol that honors the fallen from our community. She would say Merriam is better than this. So I say, do better.
Thank you, Ms. Goss. Okay, it looks like we have, I'm sorry, I'm struggling with Nicholas Cost. Is it next?
Bob, do you mind if I just say something? Can we make sure that everyone has their alerts and their phones set on silent,
Oh, okay, yeah, it's
especially on the dais? Thank you.
valid point. Please silence your phones at this time. Okay. Mr. Cost,
Good
go
evening.
ahead.
My name is Nick Cost. I reside at 6000 West 71st Street, Overland Park. I'm going to start off with a very small story. June 23rd, 2021 is a very important day for myself. That was the day that 3 miles from this exact location, one of my friends was killed in a head-on car collision with a drunk driver. Among the first people to respond were going to be Merriam, Mission, Overland Park, Fairway, and various other jurisdictions. What those officers had to see that day, I will spare you no gruesome details. He was found with part of his head taken off, trapped inside of his car, on fire. And they were the first people there. What they have to go home to in the end of the evening to their families, and what they have to process, and the sacrifices that they give, is beyond honorable. Behind me stand a lot of former law enforcement officers and current law enforcement officers. To the right of me sits a police chief who not too long ago also just beat stage 4 cancer. They give so much for your communities to keep every single one of you safe, to make sure you can sleep easy at night, and for you to take away the flags that give these people purpose so they can be remembered for their ultimate sacrifice. Because not only is it just fallen officers, but the flags also remind us that while you guys sleep, there are officers who are out there keeping you safe. This evening, there's also a brand new officer amongst Merriam Police Department. He himself has overcome great achievements doing double lung transplant and is now protecting your community, and yea, all of you's community this evening. And for you to take away these flags not only is a kick in the face to every single officer who has A, served, B, any officer that has been slain in the line of duty, is just despicable. Merriam's slogan always used to be just right. On the bottom of your website, and for the longest time, it used to be start a business, just right. Live here, just right. But taking these flags away, just despicable. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cost. Next person up would be Ken Sissom. Just leave your name and address for the record, sir.
Proudly, my name is Ken Sissom. I live at 7215 Maston, Merriam, Kansas. I'm happy to be back. It's been a while. I haven't been to a full council meeting for quite a while as a participant in the audience. I've got two purposes for being here tonight. The first is to kind of educate and make you aware of what the thin blue line means, because I'm told that there may be a number of people even on the council that don't really know exactly what it all means, and I mean technically. The thin blue line American flag represents law enforcement and is flown to show support for the men and women who put their lives on the line every day to protect us. This flag is a sign for promoting compassion and support for our nation's police officers. The phrase, the thin blue line, is synonymous with police and law enforcement and can be used interchangeably. It is the line and line of duty. The version being displayed on our Flags for Freedom event, it consists of a flag similar to the American flag, except the stripes are black and white, the background is black, and the stars are white. There is a middle blue stripe in the flag which represents law enforcement. The area above, and this is the important part, the area above the blue line represents society, order, and peace, while the black area below the blue line represents crime, anarchy, and chaos. This thin blue line representing law enforcement is the only barrier between order and peace and anarchy and chaos, with white stars symbolizing law-abiding citizens who benefit from the sacrifice that our heroes and law enforcement made to protect them. This special flag is flown as a matter of principle to show the support for the thankless work that they do. This is not all about fallen officers. This is about the work that we do, that we've done as police officers, and our purpose for it, and why it's important to have us around. Law enforcement and many others often look at on the reflections of courage and tribute to those who have fallen in the line of duty. And let me give you an example. This week, many cities, unfortunately not Merriam, will proclaim the week May 13th, 2024 as Police Week, as was done recently in the city of Fairway by Mayor Hepperly. On this proclamation, it states, quote, "This year's proclamation is especially solemn as we remember Fairway police officer Jonah Oswald, who was tragically killed in the line of duty last August. In honor of Officer Oswald, let us remember his unwavering courage, selflessness, and dedication to protecting our community. He walked the thin blue line with steadfast resolve, embodying the highest ideals of service and sacrifice." I have a right to be here tonight. I'm a citizen of Merriam. My credentials here are a little different than others because I've dedicated over 40 years of my life in service to the city of Merriam. 26 of those years was as a police officer and 13 as police chief. I was a police chief in 2018 when I was approached by someone about the flags being placed at the Flags for Duty location. I didn't see a problem with it. Now, I know I don't have the authority to give them permission officially as the mayor. I didn't think it was needed. At that time, it was a volunteer private event, and everything worked out fine. In fact, the first year or two, I couldn't get over how many people would walk up to me because I would go down during their ceremony and thank me for putting those there, even though I had little to do with it. But they thanked the city of Merriam for having those there because it meant a lot to them. And we've existed with the flags being in those places since then without any problems. We haven't had any complaints until recently. Recently, we had one or two people decide they didn't like the flags because they thought they were offensive. One or two people. That's how this got started. And now we're I wouldn't say wasting, we're taking the time for all these people to come here tonight to tell you how much this means because we had one or two people that were offended by it. I think if we ask these people if they're offended by it, I think their answers would be much different. You know, when you open the Pandora's box on an event like this or on an idea like this, there are consequences.
20 seconds, Mayor.
So please consider the image of Merriam going forward. I see we have the media here. You know, I used to be the mayor here, and image is important. It's important to me as a citizen. Please think about what you're doing before you make the mistake of doing something that's really going to besmirch our city. So thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Well, I'm trying to read the first name here. Well, yes, last name is Williams, sir. Thank you. Please come forward. Is it?
Sorry, that's my fountain pen.
Yeah.
You know.
It looks like my writing. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's all right.
Hey,
I
please
got my
give your
water
name
here
there,
in case I got to find my voice.
Okay. Thank you.
So Power War is my best friend. I'm an attorney. I'm a retired.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
My name is Matthew R. Williams.
And your address, sir?
100 Southeast 9th Street, Suite 260, Topeka, Kansas, 66612.
Thank you, sir.
That's my firm's address. I'm an attorney. Pat was my best friend. I'm also a 21-year retired guardsman, active duty, infantryman in JAG. I was in the initial push in Iraq in 2003. Seen some pretty horrible things. And this is one of them. Since everyone else talked about honor and what flags mean and whatnot, I'm going to talk about your budget, because what you have here is something you probably didn't clear through your city attorney over there. And this gentleman over here was a great example of a logical fallacy, because you kept saying, oh, well, where do we end? Where do we stop? What do we do? You're the admin. You get to choose that. That's your choice. And so I would say if you want to extend it all, great. There's thin red line flags for firemen. I've seen green ones for EMTs. You did a EMT awareness day today. Great. Put their flags up there too. They have a dangerous job. They deal with drunks. They run into dangerous positions. You get to decide that. That's your job. What I'm seeing is that there are a lot of people who did not notice or hear about or even see when the initial meeting on this was done. And Kansas, according to the Kansas Open Meetings Act, you don't have to give like soon notice, you have to give reasonable notice. And it sounds like that wasn't given. And if there are 6 city council members and 6 people voted on that, it sounds like you've already made your decision. And this is merely finger drilling, going through the motions, trying to puppet the procedure so you can act like you had due process. That's not due process. I'm a criminal defense attorney. I've done over 35 trials, 6 of them off grids. I'm telling you right now, if you've already made your decision, this isn't due process and you're violating the Constitution. See, I'm not here because my friend is gone. I'm here for his family because they're still here. And what I am seeing is that you took a vote because you believe that the thin blue line flag is unpalatable politically. You're the only one bringing up politics. You're the one making this political. No one else is. Here's the thing. By saying that the thin blue line flag that is personalized with the name Patrick Rohr, end of watch, or Teresa King, end of watch, and then saying, well, we believe that flag may be seen as racist or a dishonorable or otherwise uncouth symbol, you're slandering them. If you say it out loud, it's liable if it's in print, because you are implying them their personal flag, the thing that has their name on it, that is put there for their families to be able to come and heal, is a racist symbol. This isn't a Confederate monument. This isn't something that was put out there as a bunch of traitors trying to overthrow the United States. These were people who worked in the city. Pat lived here. He worked here. If you're trying to say it's a fuzzy geographic region, yeah, here. We went to high school over at Northwest. We went to the movie theater over there. There used to be a Circuit City down where there's that IKEA. Pat did the concrete work for it. I worked at the Papa John's down there. he was part of the city. It was part of our growing up. Yeah, he worked in Wyandotte towards the end. But when his kids were born, it was over in Merriam. So by saying that the symbol, the flag, the memorial to him that his children go to is racist, you're slandering him. And by putting in writing, which was on the agenda notes, specifically his name, it is potentially liable because you're associating him and his name with racism. Additionally, you're sending the kids.
30 seconds, sir. I just want to make sure you wrap up.
Thank you. Think about the emotional trauma you are sending his kids through right now. Now, this is being done because, well, honestly, I haven't heard a reason yet why this is being done. You took it over. I don't care how it started. Once the city government takes it over and it's on city land, it's yours. And you adopted it. And you allowed it for the last how many years? Before capriciously and arbitrarily saying, this year we don't want to do it because, oh, well, we can't find the flags. Where have they been the last 6 years? It's capricious and arbitrary and downright cruel.
Your time is up, sir.
Thank you.
For representing. Okay, next up on the list would be Mike Hill. Is it Mike Hill? Is that correct? Mike Hill? I'm sorry, sir? Oh, you pass? Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, Mr. DeBold, Scott DeBold is the next name up.
Good evening. Being a former council,
Name and address,
Scott
sir.
Diebold,
Thank you.
4825 Knox, Merriam, Kansas. Being a former council member, my last day on the bench, we had a celebration upstairs. And I said, "You're not getting rid of me. I'll come back when I think there's something wrong." I'm back. Something wrong. All right? We got to think. We got to think hard about what's going on here. Mr. Mayor, I'd like to ask some of the council members that hopefully haven't made a decision yet, I'd like to ask them a couple questions, something to think about as they sit here and listen.
Saying that, yeah, you may ask the question, but they may not
Hey,
respond.
it'll be, yep, no, I don't need a response. I want them
Thank you, sir.
to listen to the question and think about it. And maybe help them make a decision. Why now? How long have they been in the field? No issues. Haven't seen major protests, no encampments. Why now? Somebody said, it's been said, that it's because it's a city-run event now. Fags for Freedom is a city-run event. The car show is a city-run event. And those flags fly there as well. So why now? So the idea of it being a city-owned event holds no water. The red, white, and blue offends people. We see that on the news every day. I don't understand it, but we see it. So if we use the same criteria for the blue line flags, for the red, white, and blue, we can't have this event. Think about that. Maybe we should just cancel it. But I think you stirred up a pretty good hornet's nest already. I don't think you want to go to that hornet's nest. My hope this evening is that what you're hearing, yes, it's emotional, yes, it's political, but God dang it, that's what this is all about. Feelings. Feelings drive us. Feelings make us get involved in the city because we love what's going on. So yes. Mr. Engel mentioned that we don't represent some other people. I agree. Firefighters should have a red line flag there as well. They don't face a bullet. They might. They face something just as dangerous. But it shouldn't be a separate field. It shouldn't be moved up here. Because if it's racial or controversial in July, it'll be controversial in October. My hope this evening is that council members will apply some common sense. You know, I tried to do that on the bench. Did I do it all the time? I don't know. I tried. Tried to listen. I listened. Tried to apply common sense. Do what was best for the majority of this city and the decisions that I made. Left politics out of it.
You have 30 seconds, Mr. DeVol.
I'm just about done, sir. Thank you. And please have the fortitude to do what's right. Have the fortitude. Stand up. Yes, there'll be people that will be against you. Have the fortitude to do what's right and represent those that allow you to be free, that allow you to say the things you want to say. Do that. Have the fortitude.
Thank you, sir. Next individual up is Bill Pooch. Is that Pew? I'm sorry.
From the SDRs.
Yes, P-U-C-H. That's correct. Okay. Oh, sorry. Got it. Esther. Sorry about that, sir. Okay, next person up is Devin Baird. Or Bard, B-A-I-R-D. First time. Okay, thank you, sir. Please give your name and address for the record.
Devin Baird, 4420 North 106th Street, and I'm in Kansas City, Kansas. Good evening. My name is Devin Baird, and I'm the current president for the Turner Order of Police, Lodge Number 40. I was not asked to appear or speak this evening, but when I was made aware of what was going on, I felt compelled, at a minimum, to show my support, as two of the fallen officers listed on your flags were my brothers and sisters, and to support those in favor of keeping the Thin Blue Line flags. I do greatly appreciate you giving me your time and allowing me to speak this evening. In recent years, the media, Hollywood, and others have portrayed the Thin Blue Line flag in a negative light. The Thin Blue Line flag has been suggested to exist an unjust code of silence, meaning police will always support police no matter what. This is simply not true. As much of the public wants to see an officer who breaks his oath or the law brought to justice, I promise you that over 700,000 police officers that serve daily in the United States want it more. While the American flag does represent us all, the individualized Thin Blue Line flags stand as a somber remembrance to those that have made the ultimate sacrifice. In this situation, in Merriam, the personalized flags represent a memorial to those in law enforcement that have paid the ultimate sacrifice for their communities. These men and women left behind spouses, children, parents, other loved ones, and friends. Though we cannot bring them back, we can honor and remember them. As we all know, keeping the memories alive of our lost loved ones is the best way to keep them forever as a part of our lives. Family members of the fallen visit these flags annually when they are displayed, another way in which they keep their memories alive. These flags, while even just displayed temporarily, stand as a reminder to those that have paid the ultimate price so that we may never forget their sacrifice. While I am not a resident of Merriam, I do pass through your city regularly, and I also shop here. It is always an honor to see those flags together, the American and the thin blue line flag, and remember what it all represents. Thank you for your time.
Sir. Next person up would be Kathy Rowe.
Kathy Rowe, 6621 Wed Street, Merriam. I hope I can say the things that are in my heart tonight. I didn't think it would be as emotional as it is. And I just have felt so much goodness from so many who have spoken tonight. A lot of you know me. I've been around for a long time. My husband, Chad Rowe, and then City Administrator Quinn Benyon visited or attended a National League of Cities meeting, which you talked about today. And that is where they saw the information for healing fields. They were so impressed with what a healing field was. And they brought that information back to Merriam, and the city and the community were excited as well. And I'm wearing, I don't know if you can see it, it says Healing Fields, Merriam, Kansas, 2006. It was a wonderful start. And Healing Fields represented at first the healing from the tragedy of 9/11 and represented every one of those victims, including first responders. As I tried to think about the years that we've had, so many wonderful years of flying flags for freedom, and what it has meant to our community as far as so many volunteers and so many positive things. I tried to do research on blue line flags, and I looked at other healing fields. I went to the first healing field, in fact, that was started. It was in Utah. And I thought maybe I would read just a little bit about what they said. It said, over 20 years later, a generation of young people have no memory or experience of that fateful day. Nevertheless, the world they grow up in presents unique and new challenges that continue the need for healing, community, unity, and patriotism. And when I read that, it just hit me. That is what our Flags for Freedom is about. Healing, community, unity, patriotism. I tried really hard to remember the very first meeting when the blue line flags were represented, and I couldn't remember it very well. But I do remember that none of us thought that there was any reason that these blue line flags wouldn't be exactly part of what Flags for Freedom represents. I think there was some talk about we will need one more because another officer had fallen. And I kind of remember us talking about that. But I think we felt good about it. And we felt that it honored our first responders, those who have served in the armed services, and any of those especially who lost their lives in 9/11. I am saddened by the fact that we find ourselves facing some contention over our actions of flying the blue line flags, because contention is the farthest thing away from the reason that we have Flags for Freedom. It's about unity. It's about respect. It's about honor. And I love this city. That is what we are about. We do our best. We're not perfect. We make mistakes, but we've really tried hard to show that kind of an example to those that are growing up and those who are growing old here in Merriam. Unfortunately, at times in our nation and community, flags, even our American flags, are used in negative ways.
You have 30 seconds, Ms. Rowe.
Okay, thank you. And for those who are striving to divide rather than unify and tear down rather than build up, I think we need to stand firm. I don't know what your vote will be tonight, but I hope it is to honor our fallen heroes, to heal and unite communities, to inspire the patriotic values of Americans. I believe that our flags for freedom honors our armed services and first responders alike. I think it honors our community. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next individual up would be Barbara Carr. Please give your name and address for the record, ma'am.
Barbara Carr. I live in Shawnee, Kansas, but I had a business here in Merriam for 28 years. Hang in there.
Okay, time.
Flags for freedom. What does that mean to you? Obviously, some of you don't know what freedom means or the cost of it. The cost of freedom is death. How many of you had people that served in the military? World War II? I did. World War I? I did. Korean conflict? I did. I had uncles, fathers, grandfathers, brothers, sisters that all served in the military. And I'm proud of that. Isn't that what our flag stands for? And some of you are just grinding it into the ground because of who knows what. And if you don't think that the blue line flag stands for the same thing, you're wrong. Every day, men and women go out and wonder if they're coming back. And some of them don't. And even though you don't stand for them, they would be there for you, or even people who don't live here in the city and are talking bad about it. If you vote against this, you're voting against what Merriam and the Midwest should be standing for. Then you're no better than the people out there that are protesting on our college campuses and tearing down the American flag and putting up the Palestinian flag. You're no better. Not at all. The blue line flag represents the people who are protecting you in your city. They might not be out there in the country or other countries, but they're doing the same thing day after day. And you don't want to represent them? There are some red, white, and blue flags down there at your Flags for Freedom that don't have people's names on it, but they're still representing. They're representing the people who were out there in the Civil War and the World War Is and the World War IIs. And right now in our country, they're defending, that flag is defending and representing them. You might even have some, I doubt it, but kids that are in the military right now. That blue line flag represents everyone. In the 1960s, our president, John F. Kennedy, proclaimed a week in May as Peace Officers Week. Do you know what week that is? Right now. You know what May 15th is? You're supposed to have your flag at half mast to honor the people behind the blue line flag that represent you as a citizen. But do you represent them and back them as a citizen? Do you? Do you know what sacrifices they make? Those were my grandkids up here that talked earlier, that won't have their father, that just have memories. That's it. Just a memory. And every year, no matter what, we come down And we talk about it, and we talk about it all the time anyway. But it makes something special. And they know that it represents more than just their dad, that it represents the people right across the hallway here, right across the parking lot here. That if something happens to you tonight, they'll be there no matter what. Whether it's Fairway, Overland Park, Merriam, Shawnee, Mission, that flag represents them. And we made sure that as soon as that officer got killed last year, we had a blue line flag for them. So it's not just personal.
20 seconds, I'm sorry, Ms. 30. 20 seconds.
It's not just personal for all of us. And it represents more than just one person. It represents a nation, a family, a brotherhood, a sisterhood. And they don't say, well, I'm going to go to work. They have a prayer that says, as I start my line of duty, do yours and honor them.
Thank you, Ms. Go. Okay, next person up would be Nita Dillon. Please give your name and address for the record.
My name is Nita Dillon, 8516 Johnson Drive, and my son Jackson with me. I haven't started, I'm gonna cry. Okay. When I first heard that there was discussion about removing the thin blue line flags, I was shocked. It came as a complete surprise to me, and that's an important point that I'm gonna get back to here in a minute. But first, I wanna share a personal story. My son Jackson is friends with Connor. They met in preschool. Jackson's dad is a firefighter. Connor's dad was a police officer. Both men serve the community. Both men risk their lives at work. Both men have families and young children. When Connor's dad went to work one day and never came home again, my son had a lot of questions and a lot of fear. He was sad for his friend, afraid for his dad. He would come home from school and tell me how much Connor cried, how sad he was, and Jackson would ask me if this could happen to his dad while he was on shift. Jackson would cry at night. Some nights we would call my husband at the station and talk, but other nights I needed to drive Jackson to the fire station to visit and hug on his dad. We had some tough conversations that I hope you never have to have with your children. It's a real fear, as my husband lost one of his fire family while he was working at the Shawnee Fire Department. We know there's risk in the job they do, and we also have the support of our EMS family. We know this. Up until recently, I felt certain that we had the support of our community leaders as well. As members of our city council, your job is to represent the community and represent your constituents. When I served on the 5701 committee, we took intentional steps to reach out to the community and really listen to what they wanted regarding an old building. That's like an old building. This committee has voted to recommend removal of memorial flags that have been flown for the last 5 years. Each of these flags represent a local life lost in the line of duty while protecting our community. This decision deserves much more consideration than you have given it. I personally feel that the flags need to remain. I'm upset that some are allowing their personal political views to affect this. I can understand that flying a flag in direct opposition to another group is hurtful. However, that is not what these flags or this memorial represent. I was told that the council tries to remain politically neutral. Removing the flags is making a very loud and clear political statement. And we could debate politics, but we wouldn't convince each other. But getting back to what I said in the beginning, this came as a complete surprise to me, and that means that you have not done your job administratively. You have not done your job as council, because your job is to ask the community and represent the community and residents of Merriam. Chris Engel claimed that it's problematic because administratively it's hazy. There are many administrative questions to be addressed. Well, I'm going to ask that you address these questions, make definitions, set geographical boundaries if you need to. Speaking of geography, if you look on the Kansas tourism website, Travel Kansas, the photo they use of Merriam Flags for Freedom is the one with the thin blue line flag right up front and center. So I'm asking you do your job thoroughly as council members and represent us. You may not have asked, but it's clear by the turnout tonight that the community wanted their thoughts heard. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Dillon. Next person up would be Mike Patterson. Let's give your name and address for the record, sir.
Yes, sir. Michael Patterson, 8921 Foster Lane in Overland Park, Kansas. I grew up here in Merriam, just down the street, actually. I went to Crestview Elementary. I've experienced this community and seen it grow from a collection of houses to what we have now with vast amounts of commercial, different types of houses. I've seen it grow. I've had friends serve here in the police department. One has moved on, another has retired from here, and I've been granted the opportunity to be on a ride-along. And it was one of the best moments because I got a chance to see the men and women behind the badge. I'm sure none of the council people here have been on the wrong side of the law as I have, but I've been caught speeding once or twice. I've been in that situation, but I've always treated that officer with respect because I got a chance to know that each one of those people are people. They have families, friends, lives. They may spend time working in another city, but many of them come here and interact. These are people of your community. And those flags are there for a reason, to pay respect. I'm here for Patrick Rohr. He was a very good friend of mine. And I was shocked to hear that we were thinking of removing these flags. Now, I do understand it from an administrative point of view. But in my thought process, I think about this. This is the first year that you as a city are taking over this event, right? So this shouldn't be met with removing. This should be exciting. This is your chance to shine. Take it over. Make it something special. You're right. We do need to talk about how do we give these flags? How do we choose who to honor? I think those are great questions. And I think they are worth asking, and I think they are worth coming together as a community and coming up with it. This is a great opportunity to not only honor those of the fallen, this is a great opportunity for the city to shine. And I think that is exceptionally good. When you're voting tonight, I want you to think about that. Let's not talk about the hurdles. Let's be excited about the possibilities. I'm okay with expanding it to firefighters, EMTs, and I'm okay with saying we're only going to do certain regions that interact with Merriam. That makes sense to me. But let's have the conversation instead of just throwing in the towel and saying it's too hard. I think that's reasonable. I'm here for Patrick Rohr, but I'm also here for those others who have fallen. And I'm here for this community. I'm in Overland Park, right next door, and I spent a lot of time here. And as a child, I spent a lot of time here. I want this city to keep shining. Let's do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Patterson. Okay. Gosh, I don't want to mispronounce the name here, but I believe it's Nancy Gifford. Crawford, sorry. Couldn't say that was C or G. Name and address for the record, ma'am.
Nancy Crawford, 5650 Riley, Overland Park, Kansas.
Okay, thank you.
I live up the street. I literally live up the street. I might not be a Merriam citizen, but I live in Overland Park, right up the street. I commute the city, I come and visit those flags. But tonight I'm here to represent Patrick Rohr and TK King. I was a police dispatcher and I've been a probation officer. On June 15, 2018, I witnessed Patrick and TK get killed right in front of me. I had a personal relationship with TK. We were in court all the time when I had probation hearings. Like, we talked about our kids, we showed each other our kids' pictures, and I saw them get killed. I witnessed them get shot right in front of me. Those flags represent a lot for her kids, for Patrick's kids, for the community, for people like me who saw them get killed. I can't explain to you everything that I went through that day, or that all of us went through that day. It was horrible. Please consider keeping those flags for us, for the people that we saw them get shot. Consider keeping those flags for the kids and the grandkids now of those police officers that gave up everything. It might not seem like a flag might mean a lot, but it does to us because we saw them put their life, we saw them die, I saw them get killed. And I come to see those flags. It's not far from my house. I come to see those flags. So for the kids especially, for their grandkids now, keep those flags up. It shouldn't be a matter of how much money it's going to cost to keep those flags up. It's what they represent that's important. And now I have a 17-year-old who is like many young kids nowadays, and I've taught her, respect for police officers, and I keep keeping those flags up. We'll show them that they have to respect those flags. They have to respect the fallen, and those police officers put their lives on the line every day. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Crawford. Oh, my gosh. You got me with that one, the next one. I cannot read that right. You want to try? The next one. Not check right here. Which one? Number 19. Yeah. Web address. 3932. Oh, okay. Thank you, sir. Okay. Sorry we could not read your writing. I apologize, but
I can't
please,
believe you can't read that name.
please give your name
My
for us
name
in
is
the record.
Donald Ash. I am retired Blanket County Sheriff, nearly 50-year law enforcement career there, 3932 North 125th Street, Kansas City, Kansas. Well, when you go this deep in the program, everybody else has stolen your thunder. And I want to say I've been very impressed with all of the comments that have been made here tonight. I plan to make some of those same comments myself, but I'm going to spare you all that because the ones who came before me did an excellent job of explaining really what the thin blue line flag is all about. But I do want to hone in on a couple of things. First of all, regardless of how it was explained to you and what the true meaning and purpose of it is, that it represents all law enforcement officers, past, present, and hopefully going future, who step up to wear the badge and serve, not only those that have lost their lives. It was a number of years after the thin blue line flag was developed before it became significant in line of duty deaths. But since it has, it's become very, very widespread. But some see this flag as a banner of defiance. And some cities and communities have banned its display because they believe it associates with views and ideologies described many times as undemocratic, racist, or bigoted. And we've had speakers speak to that tonight. These are absurd, misguided notions in my mind after serving nearly 50 years in this profession. I've traveled this country a lot, And I've been in communities all throughout Kansas and Missouri for sure. And I've been in communities all around the country. And I dare say there's almost nowhere that I go that I don't see or notice a thin blue flag somewhere, usually at a police station or facility, sometimes even at firefighter facilities as they display their red line flag as well. But Ronald Reagan once said, "Evil is powerless if the good are unafraid." And the law enforcement brothers and sisters in the United States, regardless of their gender or their race or their heritage or their religion, they make Reagan's quote a reality. And the thin blue line flag represents their constant bravery. You've heard that here tonight as well. It is a small token to remind all of us that the presence of law enforcement is to bring forth peace and to diminish hostility and violence. And it's consistent with the ideals of freedom and justice. You've heard that many times here tonight as well. I've been to way too many police funerals in those 50 years. I've had the dubious and distinct honor to escort 3 widows to the National Police Memorial Week and service that was referenced here tonight that will take place in Washington, D.C. this Wednesday. And it's very personal to me. It's very, very personal to me. But I want to say to you as you deliberate tonight, you know, I know that governing is hard. In this constitutional republic we live in, it's not easy. It's hard. And you have to make choices. But I hope you make those choices thoughtfully, considering the truth. And the fact is, truth is objective. It's not subjective. And the objective truth about this flag is that it pays homage and it demonstrates support to our law enforcement officers for their thankless efforts in keeping the peace in our local communities across our great nation. Each and every one of you will go home tonight and lay your heads on the pillow and sleep peacefully, I hope, because you're not worried about being safe, because there are men and women out there wearing the badge
20 seconds, sir.
And dedicated to keeping you safe. Thank you, Mayor. I'll wrap it up real quick here. I implore you to stand for the truth and leave the politics out of it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your service. Thank you, Mr. Ash. Okay. Next up would be Colleen Boating.
I'm Colleen Boating, and I live at 8714 West 72nd Terrace in Merriam. I've been a resident for 20 years, and I've been on the flag committee since its beginning. And it's been a wonderful experience. And I want to say to everybody that spoke tonight, they've touched my heart in a way that I didn't expect. I mostly think of the flags of representing military people, but that's because that's where my experience with service has been with my family members who were in the military, and a few who lost their life in the military. However, I was one of the people who recommended that we just stick with the American flag and just not confuse the issue. But I've changed my mind after hearing everybody speak tonight. And I especially agree with, I believe it was Ms. Crawford. I might have the wrong person's name, but I think what I would recommend that you do is to ask Mr. Engel to do just what she said, look into it and set some boundaries. And absolutely, I think we should get flags for the EMTs and the firefighters, and maybe there are others who serve that I'm that I'm not thinking of right now. But I've changed my vote, and I'd like to keep the blue line flags.
Thank you, Ms. Bodie. Okay. The last person I have on this list, and it's not to preclude anyone else coming forward after this, is John Freeman.
I'm
Name and
John
address
Freeman,
for the record.
5654 Merriam Drive, downtown Merriam. I'm a past member of the Downtown Merriam Partnership. I'm a founding member of Flags for Freedom. I'm also a founding member of the Turkey Creek Car and Motorcycle Show. The flags in question tonight that are so controversial belong to me. I am not unanimous or anonymous, as you would put it. There are 11 flags in this blue line flag field as we speak right now. The worst day of my life was when Dan Card called me on the 15th of June at about 11:15 in the morning and said, go get Sarah and take her to Pat because he'd been shot in the head up in Kansas City, Kansas, and he died. That was the worst day of my life. The funeral in Kansas City, Kansas was at Sporting KC. The stadium was full. The procession afterwards, we left Sporting KC as the lead cars were turning south on 7th Street, probably 11 or 12 miles. The flags are mine. That was in June. They flew at the first field, the Healing Field, the Flags for Freedom Field, that 4th of July. There were 2 of them, one for Pat and one for TK, if you remember. Since then, we've added many others. The latest was from Jonah, who was slaughtered over in Mission at the Quick Trip. His flag hasn't made a flag field yet. It's only made the car show. There are only 2 events in Merriam that these flags fly. One of them is the Turkey Creek Car and Motorcycle Show. The other one is the Flags for Freedom. They better stay there. These represent people's lives. They cost the city nothing. I will sponsor and buy every one of them that I need to, even the red line flags, if they so decide to have those. That's how important this thing is to me. Law enforcement is the difference between chaos and real law. If you decide tonight to take these flags and throw them away and buy your own, I expect one of you here tonight to return those to me. Get a police escort if you want. I don't care, but I want them back. They will fly somewhere in this city. Those people, those flags represent people in the state of Kansas that have given their life in law enforcement since 2016. Think hard and think long about it. There's a lot of things at stake here, a lot of events that are going to be turned upside down if you make the wrong choice. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Freeman. Okay, that concludes the number I have. Please come. Yeah, no, that's fine. If this topic, please come forward, give your name and address for the record.
My name is Nora King. I'm the oldest daughter of Teresa King. Can I not give my full address? Can I just say my city? Just, please.
Sure.
Green Valley, Missouri. I grew up in Bonner Springs, Kansas. I don't have a speech. I really don't know what I'm going to say. I came here for support. But I'm going to tell my story. The name on that flag is my mother's name, the person who brought me into this world, the person who clothed me, held me when I was scared, let me crawl into the bed with her when I had nightmares as a teenager, let me rebel, let me be bratty. And as an adult, was the person who became my best friend in the world. The person who taught me that no matter where somebody came from, what they looked like, what they did, no matter what, if they needed a hand, you reached out and you helped them. And at 21 years old, I was on my lunch break from the bank that I worked at, and I got a call saying that my mom had been shot in the line of duty. And my first thought was, I have to get my little sister, who was 7 years old at the time. And I raced around to find her, to get to the hospital, to hear the news that she had been shot, because I hadn't been told at this time, through the head. She was on life support at the time, and between my brother, myself, and I, we decided to end life support because there was nothing to do. There was no bringing her back. And at 12:21 a.m. on June 16th, 2018, her heart stopped with my body draped across hers. I will forever remember the sound of her heart stopping. I will forever remember the last breath that she took. And even after her last breath, she continued to save lives. We donated her kidneys because that's all we had the time to do. She saved a father of 2 and a mother of 5. She went to work every day for 13 years. And she spent time away from her family, from my brother, myself, and my little sister. She selflessly gave up years and minutes and hours of her time with us to protect the city and the community that she loved, to protect people who did not care about her, to protect people that did care about her. And she did it relentlessly. And she loved what she did because she loved helping people. These flags to you may not mean anything. The name may not mean anything. And at the end of the day, a lot of this is politics, but the families don't care about politics. We care about our moms and our husbands and our sons and our dads. We care about the person behind the name, the person behind the badge, the person behind the line that it means. And I'm going to speak for my sister, who was 7 at the time, who is now 13, who is forgetting our mom, who doesn't have a whole lot of memories of her own that have not continued to be supplied through myself and my brother, because we are her lifelines to our mother as she ages. And these monuments and these memorials are another lifeline to who she was and what she was and what she did. And they help her maintain some type of string connection with our mom. Because at the end of the day, she was 7, and those memories will not be her own one day. They will be stories. But again, these help her feel more grounded in those memories. And I guess I don't really know what I was going to say, but I just wanted to tell my story. Thank you.
Thank you for coming forward, and I'm sorry for your loss. There's no problem. Did you want to speak, sir?
Yes.
Please give your name and address for the record.
My name is Samuel Syrant. I'm a third-generation law enforcement officer in my family, and I come from Bonner Springs, Kansas. I turned 16 the day before this all happened. Days later, had to hold a 9-year-old little girl's hand. Couldn't let her see how it was destroying me. Going on 5, 6 years, however long it's been. It took me 2 years just to go to the State Memorial in Topeka. For those who have never been, it hits hard. It took me to my knees as I saw the names of 2 people who I thought the world of. They tell us when we sign up for this job, you will miss weekends, birthdays, family events. In fact, in the preliminary interview, they ask you. We say yes, knowing that one of those birthdays may be our last. And we spend more time with our coworkers than we do our own family. So they become our family, and their families become our family. I have to try to help my aunt and someone I look at as my sister while also staying strong myself. I can't go to that Topeka memorial. It hits too hard. These flags are headstones, because I can't go sit by my aunt's mantle and look at my uncle's urn. I can't go to my sister's house or help her move again and have to carry the urn that contains the ashes of my aunt, wanting to continue carrying it, because the last thing I did before I left on my birthday was I gave my aunt a hug and I said, I love you. Not I love you, bye. I love you. That still sticks with me today because that is one of my few silver linings. So I end phone calls with, I love you, and then I hang up, because if something were to happen to me, I hope that someone can find the same silver lining that I have. These flags are the closest thing that I and many others do have to a headstone. It's local. So not everybody can go to Topeka. Grew up in Mission. I grew up in KCK. I grew up in Bonner. I grew up all over the place. We need these. And for the other people, the firefighters, the military members, anyone else who could have a flag of their own, put them up too. You talk about 1,200 plus, and all these different areas that these flags go to. Keep expanding. People want to bring forward more names, more people that they want to see a flag for. Make one. I didn't see anyone speak before me that seemed to have an issue with that. Memorialize them too. Make it bigger so that someone else can have the solace of a flag being a headstone for somebody that they're never going to be able to hold again. Let someone else have that silver lining. Because those flags are all I have left anymore. I apologize for not being as well put together as some of the people who spoke before me. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your service. Is there anyone else that'd like to come forward and speak? Are you coming forward, sir? Yes, please come forward. Give your name and address for the record.
Good evening. My name is Patrick Cost, 6000 West 71st Street, Overland Park. Though since my wife and her mom have been Merriam residents for 45 years, I'm married to her 29 years, so I'm kind of an honorary Merriam resident too. And I want to say thank you for putting up with all of us. I know we've kept you a long time here, and you keep hearing a lot of the same things over and over again. I have something to give you while I speak. I don't worry about the time. Just only take a moment.
Thank you.
You'll notice a lot of people came to speak. A lot of people are wearing one of these. A lot of people have flags. One thing that hasn't been said is the officers that get up and go to work every day. They get up, they go to work, they do their job. Good things happen to them, bad things happen to them. Problem is, nobody calls the police when things are going well. Things go bad. Things really go bad. Somebody gets involved in a traffic accident, a domestic violence call, child choking. These guys go on these calls as they're dispatched. One person's not just designed to go do a car accident, one's designed to go domestic violence. They get all of these. Officer Mike Mosier was on his way to work and called in a hit and run, and that escalated and it cost him his life. He was in uniform in his personal car going to work. Officer Oswald, he went to work. He responded to a mutual aid call. That call started in Overland Park, worked its way all the way down I-35, worked its way into Mission, and Merriam went right by here. He responded to a call. This perp was out of Tennessee, and it cost him his life. But they managed to get this guy off the street. These officers go to calls where they're called code blacks. Grandma or grandpa doesn't wake up after going to bed at night. Somebody finds their child overdosed in their bedroom. We've heard scanner calls go out that never make the news, and they're horrifying. One dad found his daughter hung in her closet. These guys go to work, they see horrible things, and they're just human. And we expect them to be professional, and they're not supposed to let these feelings come out and show grief. They have to act professional. Problem is, when they go home, it's got to go somewhere. Some of these guys cry their eyes out. And they get up, they put on the uniform, and they go to work in the morning again. No telling what they're going to get. A traffic stop could lead to their death. But you have officers that deliver babies in cars. You have officers that pull people out of burning cars and save their life. You have officers that go to domestic violence calls and they manage to take a bad guy off the street and send him back to jail. This shirt is our way of supporting them, knowing that they don't have anybody to turn to and get it all out. We understand this, and this shirt is our way of saying, we understand the pressure that you're under, the pain you feel, and we're glad you get up and you go to work. Now for Merriam, this is what it's going to boil down to. All these people came from a lot of places.
30 seconds, sir.
Thank you. They came from a lot of places, and they had a lot to say, and everything they said was true. But the one thing that goes beyond this is everybody who votes for this, yea or nay, it's going to be a matter of public record. Merriam is a nice place to be. But if you vote this down and you remove these flags, that's going to be a stain on Merriam that you won't be able to cover up. This goes way beyond Merriam. The entire metropolitan area is watching. Please do the right thing. Keep the flags. Thank you.
Is there anyone else out there that would like to come forward and speak? Yep, please come forward, sir. Give your name and address for the record.
My name is Matthew Hochtel. I live at 32250 West 166th Street. Am I allowed to make a statement from another individual? Or do they have to be my words? He's not able to be here tonight.
I'd ask the attorney, I guess. Yes, sir. Yeah, you are.
Okay, thank you. This statement's from an individual named Robert Cutler, who is the CEO and founder of Creative Consumer Concept. He's also a volunteer peace officer who is on duty tonight, which is why he couldn't be here tonight. As a police officer, I'm here on behalf of the 137 officers killed in the line of duty in 2023. Those of us that are on duty mentally 24/7 stand on that line between order and chaos, that thin line that we all depend on for our peace and security. I would like to share some personal thought, some perspectives. In contrast to 137 fallen, no other city employees in America were killed in their line of duties in 2023. What keeps these employees safe? Those standing on the thin blue line. And gladly, I can find no record of a politician being killed while serving in 2023. What keeps politicians safe? Those standing on that thin blue line. When you run your races each weekend, I wonder if you ever think how the streets stay safe for you on each run. Do you know how many runners' lives were lost due to non-health related events in 2023 during organized races? The answer is none. Not one single death. What keeps these runners safe? Those standing on that thin blue line. Tonight we sit in this room with only one group of people keeping the peace and enforcing the laws and ordinances. Those of us that stand on the thin blue line, sometimes sacrificing our lives for yours. You ran on a platform to keep Merriam affordable, diverse, and sustainable. You truly believe and support that mission. I suggest you vote and keep honoring the thin blue line. There is nothing you can do as a politician or citizen that will ever be upheld without those standing on the thin blue line. Keeping Merriam affordable requires keeping crime rates down. If crime rate goes up in the city, it will not be affordable, it will be uninhabitable. If you want diversity, you will need a resilient thin blue line protecting the rights of the diverse. You will not have a sustainable city if there is chaos. The thin blue line is your best investment. Only 3 cities out of our entire country has taken your course of action on the thin blue line: Los Angeles, San Francisco, and the University of Wisconsin-Madison. I find it hard to believe Merriam, Kansas, of all cities, aspire to the vision of the life of LA and San Francisco. The American flag is being burned in our largest cities in our country's enemies' capitals. There are, unfortunately, are those that see our American flag as oppression and colonialism. We, the American flag, be the next thin blue line flag, morphing into the abyss of extinction to appease every single offended person. We all know where that leads. We stand for nothing since everything offends somebody. You say the thin blue line is divisive. You say the thin blue line is divisive and a right-wing icon is false. The American flag is the strength of America. And the only way to have that flag fly high is our thin blue line. Our military may support our freedom from foreign invasion, but never forget that the thin blue line has a responsibility of keeping the peace versus chaos of over 320 million people here at home. Do the right thing and support honoring the thin blue line and not falling for the optics of the few that have agendas that pretend to be honorable, yet in truth are divisive themselves. Vote no on removing the thin blue flag. Stand with those of us that are on the thin blue line. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else that would like to come forward? Okay. Let's give your name and address for the record, sir.
My name's Calvin Hayden. I reside at 14453 Edgerton Road in Gardner, Kansas, and I'm the sheriff of Johnson County. I follow in some footsteps of some giants here behind me with Don Ash, and Chief Sissom. This guy over here is no slouch either. Chief's great. I want to talk about some things that seem to be overlooked here. When we sign up to take this job, it's because we love our community. And we are willing to sacrifice everything for our community. We work 24/7. You get calls at 3 o'clock in the morning. You get up, you miss birthdays, you miss anniversaries, you miss games, you miss your family. But we think it's a sacrifice that's worth making to keep our community safe. It's not an easy job. I worked 26 years of shift work to get here. I have a doctorate in it. It's not a fun job, and it costs you heavily. The other thing is commitment. We are willing to commit ourselves and our lives to keep the peace. We are peacekeepers. When we look at that flag, I see blood in that flag, a lot of blood in that flag. And that blood is to keep the peace so we can all live comfortably and peacefully in our country. That thin blue line tonight, I don't think it's tonight, maybe this week, it'll be flying over Washington, D.C. with 30,000 people in the mall holding up candles for all the officers and the families that lost loved ones this year. I've been there. We have 12 officers there now, and we're covering Fairway the best we can while those officers are up mourning the loss of their officer. These cuts are deep. Please don't pour salt in them. Now let's talk about courage. Our job in government is to lift people up. When I tell my officers to go out on the street, one command we give is to leave people better than you found them. That's what government is supposed to do. That's what we're charged to do. You can do that, but not if you administrate things to death. Administrative courage. Chief Sissom didn't ask the city council. He didn't ask anybody to put the flags of healing up. He just did it. What a success. What courage. I'm going to ask you to emulate that courage. Lift up our society. Lift up these people. We're talking about police officers that lose it, but the firemen, most of them get terrible, long deaths. They get esophageal cancer, and they die a slow, miserable death from the flames that they go in if they don't get killed in the house. Our military guys, there are a lot of people that are sacrificing for all of us. Lift them up. Thank you, and thank all of you for taking care of our officers.
Thanks, Sheriff. Is there anyone else that would like to come forward? Okay, go ahead, sir. Name and address for the record.
Billy Crone, 6633 Wed Street. One nation, under God, indivisible. Before the blue line flag, there was another flag to represent all Americans. It represents our soldiers around the world. It represents our police officers at home. The red, white, and blue reminds us of where we came from and where we are today. For 248 years, nearly a quarter millennia, the American flag has represented all heroes of this nation. The American flag does represent those families of the fallen here tonight. It is important that we remain united under one inclusive American flag. We must remember that police are human beings. Police are Americans. They are our neighbors. They are our friends. The public should not be divided from police over popular politics, but here we are. Honorable heroes and law enforcement swore to uphold the Constitution of the state of Kansas, and every officer who lost their life in the line of duty swore to uphold the Constitution of the United States of America, represented by the red, white, and blue. And I certainly hope that uniting under the flag of the United States of America will not be painted by anyone here as anti-police. The American flag remembers and honors all those who gave their lives in service to this nation, regardless of their profession. It was good enough for the first quarter millennia of this nation, and I suggest that the red, white, and blue is more than good enough for the next. One nation, under God, united. Thank you.
Mr. Crone. Anyone else? Yes, please come forward. Name and address for the record.
Nancy Hub, 9039 Mullen, Lenexa, and for over 45 plus years, a resident of Merriam. Proud to say that in 2006, I too was attending the National League of Cities Conference, and I stood there with Quinn Benyon and Chad Rowe. And thank you. Kathy, are you still here? Thank you so much for your comments. You said it so eloquently. Over the years, beginning in 2006, that we've had a Flags for Freedom event, we've worked so hard as a committee to keep the event non-political, non-commercial, and non-campaigning over the years. The advisory committee, the Flags for Freedom Advisory Committee, worked long and hard discussing this. During that discussion, it too was very painful. After 2 votes, they did come up with a recommendation, as you see in your packet. You've heard many, many comments tonight. Several of the comments I would have to dispute, but I'm not going to go into that now. I'm appalled to say I've even heard you all threatened tonight I found that appalling. I know a number of the people who spoke this evening. They spoke passionately. I hope that when you finally get to a vote, you vote not just with your heart, not just with your head, but what is going to be good for the community and the flag event for years to come. Merriam has a long history of strongly supporting their police officers. And I think Chief McLaughlin would agree with that. Every time he's come before the council requesting funding, he's been given that funding. Even if it was outside the budget, we found a way to fund because we support our police officers. This event is about country. I've heard so much tonight about police officers, and we do value all of them, no matter what community they're from, no matter what community they're serving. But we also need to remember why we came together to create Flags for Freedom. It was about healing our country. We heard healing for 2001. I'm the Vietnam generation. That flag to me also represents a healing for those awful, awful, awful Vietnam years. We've healed from that. I believe we can heal from this discussion tonight. I can tell you I'm very, very glad I'm here and not up there any longer. 16 years on the council, I too had to make a lot of tough decisions. And I don't think there's any decision I made that I regret having made that decision. So I hope when you leave here tonight, you can leave feeling like you made the best decision that you could for the event. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you for your service. And Chief McLaughlin, please extend my thanks to all of your officers. I know they serve long and hard. And all of the city staff, you all serve long and hard, sitting through meetings like this. Amen.
Thank you, Ms. Up. Is there anyone else out there that would like to come forward and speak? Yes, please come forward. Give your name and address for the record.
Shelley Plakowski. My business address is 61, excuse me, I have a tickle in my throat, 6142 Merriam Drive. I was on the founding committee for Flags for Freedom. I opened one of the first boxes of flags that we bought. I wrote one of the first sponsor checks that was written, and I planted one of the first flags that was planted. The event grew. I think the last year that I participated, there were 3,000 flags. So it was a much larger, grander event than it has been the last few years. And there's nothing wrong with expanding an event and adding things and enhancing, like the blue line flags, particularly when it is something that's personal to so many people, like the cars, who have something very personal that involved. So including the thin line blue line flags for the last 6 years, and now, not gonna do that. I think the Flags of Freedom Committee created a divisive discussion about that when it's been fine for the last 6 years. And I don't see any reason to change it. There's no reason. Chris made some points earlier that I think are a little foggy. I think that those are things that can be worked through. I believe that, tell me if I'm wrong, it's all of the law enforcement personnel that have been killed in the state of Kansas. Yeah, so there is
in this area. In the
metropolitan area. Okay, so there is, might be a little fuzzy, but there is a defined area. It could further be defined. It's not that difficult. The committee, by taking this vote, making this decision, has made this a divisive issue. I don't know who started it or how it got started exactly. I suspect that I do, but there's no reason for it. There's no cause for it. It was fine the way it was. There's nothing divisive about that. If that's the reason, we haven't really heard a good reason yet why the decision was made after 6 years. So I fully support keeping the blue line flags at any event where there are flags displayed. And it doesn't have to be divided into its own little event, its own little area at just the police department. I don't understand that. And I would like anybody to give me a good reason why this has become an issue. And Barbara Carr has some statistics that she wanted to
You say
point out.
that this is the first year for the city, then make it better.
Yes.
Don't make it worse. Here's a statistic for you. Since 2020, 64 active duty military have died. And that's it, since 2020. Now, you want to know about the thin blue line people? 2020, 428 people died. 2021, 660 police officers died. 2022, 266 police officers died. You heard about 2023. Already this year in 24, 54 police officers have already died. Not just 60 or 64 since 2020, but we have over 1,400 people have died that represent those thin blue lines, that represents them. We don't have to just do red, white, and blue. If you're colorblind, the red, white, and blue might look blue and black.
That's true.
We don't know. But it does represent people, and it's not just personal to us. It's personal to every person that carries a badge or that has carried a badge.
Less than 30 seconds, please.
And after 6 years, to decide to do away with them or ban them from the events, any event, that's just disrespectful. Just disrespectful.
Thank you. Okay. Is there anyone else that needs to speak? Okay. Let's give your name and address for the record, sir.
Steve Carr, 601 East Skylark. My son, Marshall, I can tell you it's personal to me. I was with my nephew Connor that Father's Day when I got the phone call. To have to come up and explain to him and my son what had just occurred. To two little boys who now their uncle is gone and their father is gone. Pat was a son, a brother, a friend, a husband, another father again, an uncle, and could have been a grandfather that's taken away from them. Yes, it is personal. I've had to already do this once, and I hate doing this. I don't understand why this is such a hard thing to come about after all this time, 6 years, and you guys receive it and immediately go, nope, we're done. In my personal opinion, and we'll say Pat's, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few or the one. There seems to be many tonight behind me and in front of you. There ain't very many of the other side right now. And I leave you at that. Thank you.
Thanks for your comment, sir. Is there anyone else who would like to come forward at this time? Okay. I think that, one, I applaud your efforts and the fact that you guys have remained calm, and I know it's a very passionate subject and topic, how much it means to all of you out there, and it means a lot to us as well, too. And I appreciate you refraining from outburst out there. And at this point, I'll close out this section in reference to the public comments. I would ask if there's anyone on the city council that would like to make any comments at this time. Okay, this way. Yes, Mr. Caldwell.
You know, I just have a question about this, kind of before we get maybe talking about the actual, the recommendation that's brought forth to us was made by 6 people. Were they, how many council members were part of that? Because we've been accused of having a violation of an open meeting.
I was the only council
So
person
there's
there.
one council member there.
Right.
Okay. How many staff members?
3.
3.
The staff members did not
Staff
vote.
doesn't vote.
Okay.
Staff
Okay.
just staffs the,
Okay,
staffs the
and so the
committee.
others were volunteers. Okay, thank you. Just clarification, that was not a council meeting.
Wasn't the mayor there as well?
Yeah, I was there at our Flags for Freedom Committee, yes. I was, yeah.
Thank you.
Any other comments that any council person would like to make at this time?
I do have a comment.
Okay, Ms. Hans, go ahead,
Because
please.
I do still stand by that. I want the flags for freedom to be red, white, and blue. The stars and stripes definitely can have different meanings for everybody who looks at it. But it is an official symbol. I understand that the blue line flags are gaining with officiality, but they are not official. They cannot represent all law enforcement when law enforcement works for individual cities, counties, whatever. It just isn't official. So I really want our new Flags for Freedom event to go back to being red, white, and blue. And the reason we have yellow ribbons that the Flags for Freedom Committee has always sold is so that those flags can be personalized. They're personalized for service people. They can be personalized for serving or for fallen police or firefighters or me. We can personalize those flags. They don't have to be memorials. They can be for those who are serving. And that's my statement.
Okay, are there any other statements that a council member would like to make at this time? Okay, I see no other statements. I guess I might defer to our city attorney in reference to, I understand that one of our Flags for Freedom Committee members has changed their vote. So as far as this going forward, I don't know if that's something that could be changed afterwards, whatever. Is it now 3-3, or does it still stand as 4-2, and that
Still
means
stands
nothing?
as 4-2.
Okay. All right. Well, we're at a difficult time in reference to making a decision here, and I've seen a lot of individuals out there speak with a lot of passion, and I was one of those individuals that did vote to leave the flags in the field. I think all of my council people know that, but I want the public to know that as well too, as a member of that committee. But at this point, I think we need to make a decision. I mean, we've all had the opportunity to listen to everyone out there. Maybe there's people that you've talked to that have different feelings or feel that we should be voting differently. I've always felt, and I've told Mr. Engel this on many occasions, that unless it's an ethical or a legal or a moral, I am going to try to vote for my constituents when I believe that there's at least 51% want me to vote a certain way. I would only ask that hopefully that you use that same philosophy, that you're here to represent your constituents, and and vote accordingly, I guess, at this point. Mr. Caldwell?
I just like to say, I'm really struggling with this. You get into I think a philosophical of good policy versus people. And I get that having an official flag, red, white, and blue, is official. I get that all the things Mr. Engel said about whatever we would come up with would be really squishy and probably not really good policy because we can't define the region, we can't define the time, we can't define a lot of these things in a very clear, concise way. And so maybe this wouldn't be good policy, but there's people involved. And so it's that conflict. So anyway, I'm struggling with it.
I understand, and I would be, well, I probably won't get to vote on this, but you guys do get a chance and an opportunity to do so. And, you know, it's unfortunate because it means so much to these individuals out here that have spoke from their hearts, and your decision here will affect their lives for the rest of their lives and our community. So as we move forward, I would entertain a motion as to what.
Before we do that,
Okay.
please, when you vote, don't explain your vote. Explain it before you vote so we can think about it, because I don't know what I'm going to do.
Yeah, and that's
So-
why I'm glad you brought that up,
Let's
Mr.
have all
Collins.
the conversation
I've tried to
before
ask
we
for
start.
conversations now so that people can have an opportunity to speak, what your beliefs and what your thoughts are. Because I know it's difficult if you haven't looked at all perspectives itself. Go ahead, Ms. Haynes.
We also have the opportunity to direct staff to further, they made the recommendation that we have a separate memorial for our first responders to coincide with First Responders Week, which I believe is in October somewhere. And so we have the opportunity to direct staff to further investigate that and to come up with the parameters for that. We're trying to address how we move forward with the Flags for Freedom event. That's one thing. But to recognize that memorial is an important thing to so many people, then we can direct staff to lay that out, make that two different sections.
Okay, go ahead, Ms. Aldridge.
I think that's a great idea, Chris. To layer on top of that, I think there are a lot of opportunities to display flags for various causes that we support as a city throughout the year. And I would like staff to add to that and maybe explore general flag policy, because I think we need to have some guidelines in place. Because I would rather have this discussion one time than feel like every time a group would like to display a flag on city property, at least we have guidelines in place for the administrative side of things. And that would also be able to cover public safety, the safety week in October.
Yeah, I support that. That makes sense to me.
Because that would cover the compromise, and that would also.
Right.
Other discussion from any other council member? Okay. Ms. Ryder, go ahead.
I agree that we need to have some form of guidelines laid out. This seems to be a drop in the bucket in all the things that we could discuss as far as flags go. And I feel like this needs to be, there needs to be more guidelines before we can actually vote on this, especially this one issue.
To clarify, do you mean vote on the motion that's presented? Yes. Okay.
Okay, I guess I'm somewhat confused in reference to, is it your recommendation that we take any action on this until some guidelines have been established?
Yes.
Okay, I guess we would need that in the form of a motion and a second, if that was Oh, go ahead, Ms. Shveta.
I think that's separate. Like, I think we're talking about a flag policy for the whole city at large. We're talking tonight about Flags for Freedom. That's a different event that we're talking about. So I
Right.
think those are two different things. I think we can vote tonight, personally, on Flags for Freedom, and then we talk about a flag policy as at a later date, and we can hear from other groups on that evening as well.
Okay, Mr. Neal.
I kind of hate to see us kicking this can down the road, especially after so many people have come tonight to express how they feel. And I think that as elected officials, we should have the, the strength to vote on something that's very difficult. I came into this whole thing probably very unsophisticated in my thinking. Going back a few years, the use of flags in very overt political ways to essentially take a symbol that has a great deal of meaning for a lot of people, and from what I can see, stands for all the good things that we like to believe that we possess as communities and as a country, and then add things to it that are somewhat peripherally, but not. I mean, it just depends on your perspective. So I came into this whole meeting with a bit of trepidation because I felt like, that I felt like the American flag was appropriate and adequate initially, and I have heard everybody speak, and I've taken what they've said to heart, and I changed my perspective. I still don't think we necessarily have it right yet, because I don't know that we know what we're doing, but I think we're dealing with issues that affect the very core of a lot of people, and so we need to make a decision. We need to have the strength to make a decision. And I think that I would like to see the flags with the thin blue line on them used in our Flags for Freedom, because I don't think that they take anything away from that. My initial reaction to this whole thing was I didn't like what I thought was the politicization. I can't even speak now, but that came about a few years ago when people were protesting some other things, and a group of people came out with these and started promoting the flags that had been altered in some way, whether it's the blue line or not. I wasn't in favor of that, and but I understood it, and I think we're now at a point where we've got there's so much behind this that, and the people that spoke, you moved me, and I appreciate all that, and I believe that we should go ahead and make a decision and not kick the can down the road. I think the respectful thing to do is to make a decision. And I would support keeping the thin blue line flags in our celebration in Merriam. I don't think that harms anything. And I think it will provide some solace to some people who have sacrificed a lot. And I really, I've changed my mind. So I'd like to see us vote on it and not kick the can down the road.
All right, does anyone else have any comments they would like to make concerning this? Go ahead. Yeah, and maybe a more clarification, because I'm not sure if you were making a motion and what that entailed. So
Well,
let's
the
get back to that.
reason why I would like to discuss this more in detail.
Speak up.
The reason why I would like to discuss this in more detail is because I don't know yet. I don't think that it should go away. But the fact that there are only a growing number of them is potentially going to be a concern at one point. We only have so much city space that we can put flags. So the personalization of the flags, I love
Please
it. I love the personalization, but I'm not sure yet where to draw the line.
Okay, thanks for your comments. Just to clarify then, are you not making any motion to move on or not, or is this discussion? Okay. Okay, you want to talk about it
I
more?
want to talk about it a lot more. That's kind of what it.
Okay, that's your desire. Okay. Any other comments concerning this? Okay, go ahead.
Well, I want to give Amy the floor. What do you want to talk about? I guess, what are your questions? We have the time now.
When did they become personalized? How did that become a thing?
Well, I think from my understanding is from the day one when they went up that there was a name. Officer Rohr was the first, and Officer King was the two flags that were placed on our field.
So
They
all
were
of the
personalized
flags
from
that are
the
there-
beginning. All the flags are personalized and have an officer's name.
All of the blue line flags.
Yes, excuse me, yeah. I'm specifically speaking of the blue line flags, have an officer when they started and when they lost their life in the line of duty. And it appears that we have about one to two officers per year in our metro area that lose their lives.
And when did we start personalizing the regular flags?
I'll be happy to try to answer that.
Yes, please, Ms. Haynes.
So we started with yellow ribbons from maybe not year one, but pretty close, year two, where you could purchase a yellow ribbon. And we actually have someone who fixes the yellow ribbons, and then every year we take them off of the flags and save them and then put them up again, and we put them in order so people can find that personalized flag in the flag field.
And the American flags, which she's speaking of.
Right. The volunteer committee never dealt with the blue line flags. Those were handled separately because they weren't ours.
Okay, Mr. Leahy.
I had a question about how we've handled volunteer committees before, because prior to this is my third year on council, and prior to that, I was on as a resident. I was on 5701 committee, where we explored what to do with the old community center. And I know that after that committee made a recommendation, it came to council, and council, I believe, chose to accept the recommendation until further investigation. Have we received any other policy comments from other committees recently or in the near past? I'm just trying to think, because the Flags for Freedom Committee has made a recommendation that is now up to us as council to either elect to approve or change or do otherwise. how have we handled other volunteer committee recommendations in the past? Because I don't think we've had very many since I've been on council.
I don't think there's many that come before us, but anytime that it's recommended to the council for some sort of decision, a lot of our committees are advisory committees, and then we have the ultimate decision to either move forward with the recommendation, to either do something, or to, in this case, do away with something. And that's, just how we've operated for a number of years. So, yep, go ahead, Ms. Shadrich.
Well, as a follow-up to that, two questions. What are the other, can we just be clear on what the other volunteer committees are? Because this is the first time I've seen a volunteer committee decision also come before council.
I want to add on to that because the 5701 was an appointed committee.
Right.
And
Mayor appointed
like
committee, right.
the car show and Flags for Freedom, and I think we may have one other that's an actual volunteer committee that's not an appointed committee.
And then, well, now I forgot my second question. I was speaking, Jacob. I'll remember it at some point, but.
All right.
I have a question in the meantime. The issue of policy on this is ownership of the blue line flags. As this becomes a city event, I struggle with the private ownership of flags that will be displayed within the city event. That, it was mentioned before that they were donated. Apparently, they were not donated. They're still owned by the individual, although they're stored by the city. And so that just makes my head explode. If it's a city event, the city should own all the flags and control the flags and figure out what to do with the flags.
So from the legal perspective, I think it would be best for the city to own all the flags it puts out, whatever they are. Once you own the flags, and this is a city-sponsored event, and you're in control of it, it takes a different course than when it was a volunteer organization putting them up on city property. So whichever direction you all go, I would just recommend, as your legal counsel, they should all be the city's flags, whether you want to buy new ones or purchase them from somebody or accept a donation. But yeah.
So I'm not the only one that was struggling with that part. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Consider you own the flags, yes, but make it very short, sir.
Can you turn on the microphone, please?
Is that it there? The flags in 2016 are mine. They still are today. They are on loan to the Parks and Recreation Department with permission from the city. You can have them if you use them. If you choose not to use them, I want them back.
Thanks for the clarification, sir. Okay.
Mayor, if I could add some just clarity on the committee issue. The reason that the item came back was that as I shared in my preamble, when we had the work session, we told council that we would come back after the committee had discussed the topic. Planning committees generally don't make formal recommendations to council. They assist staff and volunteers in facilitating city events. So unlike an advisory committee that's appointed by council, it's generally made up of volunteers for city events. The reason this item came back was because this was a topic of conversation at the joint meeting, and at the joint meeting, the issue was left unresolved to the extent that council said they would like some sort of opportunity to hear about it and talk about it again. So staff said, this would have been last August or September, staff said when the planning for next year's committee starts, we will make sure that the committee talks about the topic and we will bring back their resolution or lack of resolution. That is the reason that this particular item is in front of you from a planning committee, unlike most other planning committees.
Thanks for the clarity.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Okay, well, I think, did you have any other discussion before we ask for a motion? Because I'm about to ask for a motion of direction here from the county, or the council. Okay, go ahead, Ms. Ryder.
So we're making a motion for the Flags for Freedom event,
The event.
which
yes.
is just one event.
That's what's come forward this evening. That's what was under discussion, was that we did ask the Flags for Freedom
Although
Committee.
these are put up several times a year, we're only talking about one event, correct?
That's correct. At this point.
What's put up several times a year?
Where these,
I'm
the
sorry.
flags for, the blue line flags are also put up at the, I think the
Right.
question is.
This
concerning
has nothing to do with the car show.
Show.
Okay.
Right. Well, this is.
Okay.
Right now.
It's a
right now,
different committee.
The discussion was specifically aimed at the recommendation or for the Flags for Freedom Committee to look at it. They have nothing to do with the car show, that particular committee. So this recommendation comes out of that committee. My interpretation was if we want to address this at a later date, we can do so, but this conversation needs to be reflective of strictly the Flags for Freedom event.
If we wanted to have staff prepare a formal flag policy, would we need to make that motion? Is that a motion tonight, or is that just provide direction? Or just ask nicely?
If there's enough head nods, staff can certainly put together a flag policy and bring it back to the next meeting, since we won't meet again until the end of June, or I'm sorry, the beginning of June. That should be sufficient time.
Is there a desire for Mr. Ingles' staff to do that?
Yes, please.
Nodding my head.
Please, there is a number. Okay, well, it's truth time now in reference to this particular topic and subject. I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Go
I'll
ahead,
make a
Ms. Haynes.
motion. I move that the City Council concur with the recommendation of the Flags for Freedom Planning Committee.
Could you clarify that too, of what that is to?
Which is to fly only the USA flags.
Okay, we have a motion. Do I hear a second? Okay, Ms. Yodrich.
Mr. Mayor, second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Hands.
Aye.
Councilmember Caldwell.
No.
Councilmember Leahy.
Aye.
Councilmember Neal.
No.
Councilmember Ryder.
Aye.
Councilmember Silvers.
Aye.
Councilmember Yodrich.
Aye.
Councilmember Shavetta.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-2.
Okay, thank you all that were in attendance this evening for being here and speaking so passionately and for all your
If you
comments that
would,
you've made. Yeah, I'm sorry. Oh, I did not hear what it is. Is there anything we need to address, Chief? I don't, yeah. I didn't hear what the threats were, but I was trying to get moved on to the next item. Okay. I hear you, yeah. Okay, we'll give them an opportunity to exit the council chambers. Okay, do you want to carry on a few more things before we do it? Yeah, okay. We may take a short break in a little bit, but let's move on for the next item, which is consider approval of an ordinance renewing a franchise agreement with Level 3 Telecom. Whoever's coming forward with that, please do so at this time.
This item is, there's no change from the first reading that we had at the last meeting, so this was the second reading.
Okay, does anybody have any questions before we entertain a motion for that?
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Hands, go ahead.
I move that we approve an ordinance granting a franchise agreement with Level 3 Telecom of Kansas City LLC.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I hear a second? Okay, Ms. Aldridge.
Mr. Mayor, second.
Okay, we have a motion second. Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Caldwell.
Aye.
Councilmember Leahy.
Aye.
Councilmember Neal. Councilmember Ryder.
Aye. Aye.
Councilmember Silvers.
Aye.
Councilmember Yodridge.
Aye.
Councilmember Shavetta.
Aye.
Councilmember Hands.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Next item up is consider approval of an ordinance granting a franchise to CenturyLink Communications. Is there any update on
No
that?
changes from
Oh,
the
no
last time
changes?
it was presented.
Okay, Ms. Aldridge, entertain a motion.
CenturyLink. Mr. Mayor, I move that the council approve an ordinance granting a franchise to CenturyLink Communications LLC.
Okay, we have a motion. I have a second. Ms. Hands?
I second that.
Okay, we have a motion second. Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Leahy.
Aye.
Councilmember Neal.
Aye.
Councilmember Ryder.
Aye.
Councilmember Silvers.
Aye.
Councilmember Yodridge.
Aye.
Councilmember Shavetta.
Aye.
Councilmember Hands.
Aye.
Councilmember Caldwell.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Next item up is consider adoption of an ordinance amending section 14206 for the Merriam Code regarding short-term rentals.
Mayor,
Director
Council,
Dyer.
Brian Dyer, Community Development Director. There were a few changes, modifications made to the ordinance that were at your first reading. After your first reading, staff went back and started working on the implementation or potential implementation of a short-term rental ordinance. And my staff does a really good job of, found some things they needed clarifications on. So that's a few modifications just simply to provide clarifications in the ordinance, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Director Dyer? Okay.
I do
Like I
believe you may
see-
have somebody who wants to make a comment too. Mayor.
Oh, concerning, on this topic? Yes, oh, I'm sorry, yes, I thought I checked on it. Mr. Neal, go ahead.
Yeah, what was the substance of the changes since the first reading? I mean, basically, anything?
Well, there really weren't any substantive changes. Probably the most biggest change was us to clarify that only one unit per parcel could be an STR, i.e. We have duplexes that are on one parcel. And
Right.
so we just want to clarify that only one of those units could be an STR.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Bill, would you like to come forward at this time? I'm sorry, I almost missed you. Name and address for the record, sir.
I'll try to make this short.
You've waited so long.
Bill, you're the champion.
Am I already started on my time? No. My name is Bill Pugh. I live at 6556 Goodman Drive, Merriam, Kansas. And in my backyard is a private drive with 3 houses. The middle one at 6574 Goodman Drive is a new STR with 5 bedrooms, pool, hot tub. My concern is it's going to be a party house. And there are 6 kids between the ages of 2 and 9 that play regularly on that private drive on their bikes and scooters. They're on both sides of this STR. And they've played there for years. That's their safe place to play. My wife, before we were married, gave easement of 10 feet for a 20-foot wide drive in front of the STR for a 20-foot drive to go in the L shape around. And in front of the STR, that drive is only 16 feet wide. It's not 20 feet. This is too narrow for the kids to play safely if there's cars allowed to park on that private drive. Not only this, but a fire truck requirement is 20 feet. 16 feet, is he going to be able to squeeze through there at 16 feet? You know, and if you put a car on there, he definitely can't get back to the last house on there if they have a fire. And that should be, I know that there's a packet that's going to be put out for all these STRs, that requirements, especially on this one on Goodman Drive, on the private drive. It should be specified in there, no parking on the private drive, period. No parking. They put an extra area in front of the concrete. They poured for the swimming pool. There's room for 2 or 3 cars there. There's room for 3 cars in the drive. They should not be parking on the private drive. There was a social get-together there just a few days ago. There were 3 cars there. 1 was parked in the driveway and 2 were on the private drive. Well, you know, I see a lot of problems with that. And this is a big safety concern in more ways than one. The kids' safety for playing, they've been playing there for years with these cars parking on the private drive. It's a safety factor for the in-house. If there's a party going on and everybody's in their swimming suits out there partying, and if there's a fire, that house is going to burn down before a fire truck can even get back to that 3rd house. Either it needs to put in the packet and the STR owner be advised that there is no parking on the private drive, or there needs to be a sign put up right there on that private drive, no parking on the private drive. And that's all I have to say. I mean, I don't like the STRs. I mean, you already knew that. But this is a big safety concern that I've had from the very beginning, because that's the kids' play area. Back a year ago, the police were chasing a car down Shawnee Mission Parkway. I mean, this was in the middle of the night. And this guy, he decided he was going to go down Goodman to get away from the cops, but when he went around and went down that private drive, he realized, oh, I can't go anywhere. He jumped out of the car and let the car run down over the cliff, okay? Those kids were scared to death for the longest time. They did not want to play in that private drive because of that incident. I mean, this could be an issue, a safety issue, big safety issue. That's what I have to say.
Yeah. Thank you for coming forward. I will direct, I guess, our police chief and fire chief to look at the situation and see if that, would be a problem for us for protection of the other houses. With the cooperation of both those individuals, it could be made a fire lane. Typically, if they would make that decision.
Yeah, I mean,
I would leave it up to staff to review that.
I measured today in between the rubber mulch edging that I put up, which was right on the edge of the asphalt, over to the other end, right in front of the STR, and it's 16 feet. That's it. And my wife gave 10 feet easement for a 20-foot, and it's not even 20 foot wide.
Okay. We've heard it, and I understand your time is now expiring. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Okay, and I assume that can be addressed at a later date if it necessarily have anything to do at this point with our recommendations here, but okay, well, I would move or ask if there is anyone who'd like to make a motion considering the adoption of this ordinance.
I wanted to discuss, did
Motion
we
by Mr.
add
Leahy.
any policy for what it would take to revoke a short-term rental license? Is that in this?
It is already in there, excuse me, it is already within your existing code
Okay.
and ordinances that the council has the ability to revoke any
Okay,
business
it's just
license.
the same as we have for blanket for all business
Yes,
licenses.
that is
Okay.
correct, that is correct.
Also, I wanted to add that while we're having discussion, that I think I've been a pretty vocal opponent of this, and we're not going to wait until we vote to speak out, that I think the 1,000-foot buffer is unfair and takes away from a lot of residents, and that's why I really don't like the 1,000-foot buffer. I know it'll fix the problem, but I just wanted to make sure I said it before we got to vote.
Okay, thanks, sir. Go ahead, Ms. Shadridge.
I concur on the 1,000-foot buffer.
Okay,
Oh, I wanted to add that if, I would rather just ban them all outright than deal with the 1,000-foot buffer.
all right. I know we've had a lot of discussions, both specifically about this topic, and I know that we're all in agreement with what the right number is. I would entertain a motion to see if that passes. Or
I have a
oh,
comment
did you have
first,
another comment
please.
too?
Yes,
please
thank
go ahead.
you.
Ms.
I've heard
Schroeder.
from my constituents in Ward 4, and this 1,000-foot buffer, I think, is a good compromise for maybe the issue in Ward 4 specifically. I know you all aren't dealing with that, but this is what I've heard from my constituents. So I just want to make sure everyone knows that. Thank you. I'll make a motion if I can, or if Amy.
Do you have a comment, or were you?
Question.
Question. Okay, go ahead.
Do we know who owns all of these STRs? Are they all owned by the same person or a few people?
No, they're owned by a variety of people.
Okay. All right, I would defer to Ms. Shavetta if you would like to make a motion.
I would love to. Thank you. Mr. Mayor, I move that the council approve an ordinance establishing the licensing of short-term rentals and authorize the mayor to sign the effectuating ordinance.
Do we have a motion? Do I have a second? Okay, go ahead, Ms. Shadridge.
Mr. Mayor, second.
Okay, we have a motion, a second. Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Neal.
Aye.
Councilmember Ryder.
Aye.
Councilmember Silvers.
Aye.
Councilmember Yodrich.
Aye.
Councilmember Shavetta.
Aye.
Councilmember Hands.
Aye.
Councilmember Caldwell.
Aye.
Councilmember Leahy.
No.
Motion passes 7-1.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Looks like next item up will be approval of an amendment to the 2024 schedule of fees to include those short-term rental licenses. You have any further discussion that we need to consider versus just?
Yeah.
We
just
already talked about it.
If we want to implement the fees this year, we would have to amend the 2024 fee schedule. So it would include the $300 short-term rental license. It would be prorated like all the other occupational licenses after July 1st, if the license was not obtained until after July 1st.
Okay, if there are no questions for, I would entertain a motion concerning the fees. Go ahead, Ms. Shadridge.
Mr. Mayor, I move that the council approve an amendment to the 2024 schedule of fees to include short-term rental license fee.
Okay, we have a motion. I hear a second. Go, Ms. Hands.
I'll second.
A motion second, Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Ryder.
Aye.
Councilmember Silvers.
Aye.
Councilmember Yodrich.
Aye.
Councilmember Shavetta. Councilmember Hands.
Aye.
Councilmember Caldwell.
Aye.
Councilmember Leahy.
Aye.
Councilmember Neal.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. Looks like the next item up on the list is consider authorizing staff to obtain bids for demolition of 4 city-owned buildings. Oh, there you go. We have Director Company. Go ahead.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The city recently purchased 4 buildings, 1 in the downtown area and 3 near Antioch and Merriam Drive. Future redevelopment of these properties will likely require demolition to ensure the highest and best use. Right now, if we leave these buildings in place, we're spending, just keeping an eye on the security of the building and running water. It's not a lot, but we would recommend approval by the council to begin the process to demolish these 4 city-owned buildings. We've completed an environmental assessment, and there is asbestos, and they're working on that right now. The cost for demolition for the 4 properties is $75,000 approximately. If this is improved, we'll bring a future contract for demolition of the buildings.
Okay, does anyone have any questions for Director Company? Go ahead, Mr. Leahy.
I just wanted to clarify, it's the barber shop, the White House just north of it, the Blue House north of that, and then the one in downtown adjacent to 5701.
Correct.
Okay, were there other questions this way?
And
Ms.
I
Haynes.
just, oh, okay, so the $75,000 does include the asbestos removal, or you don't know?
That was approved separately under the city administrator's authority, about $15,000 for the asbestos.
Okay.
So the 75,000 is for the demolition
Just the
of the 4
demolition.
buildings.
Okay, thanks.
Approximately.
Go ahead, Ms. Ryder.
This is for all 4 of them, right?
Correct.
Not individually 75,000 for, okay.
Yes.
Other questions for Director Kumpke? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion for this. Ms. Haynes.
Mr. Mayor, I move that the council authorize staff to obtain bids for demolition of the 4 mentioned city-owned buildings.
Okay, we have a motion. Do I have a second? Ms. Shadrich?
Mr. Mayor, second.
Okay, we have a motion, second, Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Silvers.
Aye.
Councilmember Yodrich.
Aye.
Councilmember Shavetta.
Aye.
Councilmember Hands.
Aye.
Councilmember Caldwell.
Aye.
Councilmember Leahy.
Aye.
Councilmember Neal.
Aye.
Councilmember Ryder.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Next item up is consider bid award to Kansas Heavy Construction LLC. You're already there. Please take
am.
us through that.
In April, we bid the 2024 Mill and Overlay project, and the streets are in your package. We did receive bids from 6 contractors, and on May 7th, we opened the bids, and Kansas Heavy Construction was the most responsive and lowest bidder in the amount of $1,211,625.50. They have completed work for us in the past, and in fact, they have the bid for 50th and England, so that'll be really good if you approve their bid tonight, then they'll be able to work in the same area and get the work done efficiently. We would recommend approval of the low bid with Kansas Heavy Construction, and construction would be in June and be completed by the end of October.
Okay, Ms. Ryder, go ahead.
Okay, I have a question.
Okay.
And I'm not sure if you're going to be able to answer it or not.
Okay.
But I know that they have done several streets in our neighborhood so far. And I also know that their curb system in front of driveways is essentially the same curb system that is on the curb. So like all the residents going over their driveways go over like essentially a large bump every time. And I was wondering why they did that, because in other neighborhoods that have been done previously, they're smoothed out and nicer to drive on, I guess.
So ideally, there is, as you call the small bump, because that helps channelize the drainage. I mean, when you lower that down, you know, it has a potential for the runoff to go over the curb, especially if the house is lower. So ideally, we like that standard rollback curb that has a little bit of a hump. In the past, I think it depends on, you know, whoever designed the mill and overlay, they may have just put it in as it was. But typically, on our 49th Street project, we would like to put that back because it carries more drainage. So ideally, that's, I know residents don't always like it. We would like to have that extra hump. So I don't know if that answers your question, but I think sometimes you put it back the way it is. I think in the future, I would like to kind of put that back with the curb in there to allow more drainage.
Would it be possible to do it on a per house basis based on what side of the hill they're on? Like people on the upside of the hill from the street don't need that bump to channel the water, whereas the people on the downhill side, obviously they do. Otherwise, the water's running down their driveway.
We could, but I think that would be difficult, more complicated plans and trying to keep the contractor, no, it's this one, it's this one. I think that would be more difficult if we did it that way.
Any other questions for Director Kumpke? Okay. Well, we've lost one individual at this point. I forgot I was supposed to take a break, wasn't I? Well, let's go ahead and move forward, though. It's been a long evening. I would entertain a motion for this if someone would so entertain. Ms. Shadridge.
Mr. Mayor, I move that the council approve a contract with Kansas Heavy Construction LLC for the 2024 Mill and Overlay Program in the amount of $1,211,625.50.
Okay, we have a motion. Do I hear a second? Was it? Go ahead, Ms. Rivera.
Mr. Mayor, I second.
Okay, we have a motion second, Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Yodrich.
Aye.
Councilmember Shavetta.
Aye.
Councilmember Hands. Councilmember Caldwell.
Aye.
Councilmember Leahy.
Aye.
Councilmember Neal.
Aye.
Councilmember Ryder.
Aye.
Councilmember Silvers.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Okay, well, before we move on to the next item, is everyone else okay with just moving forward with the rest of the meeting? Okay, I'm getting head nods. Okay, the next item up would be staff report for the MVB annual report. Looks like we have tourism and economic manager Karen.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me this evening. I think this is the latest I've been here in a long time. I just got a text asking if I was coming home. Pretty soon. I'll be brief. I know we've been here a long time tonight. We did have a really good year in tourism and economic development. And I'm just going to go over a couple of things that I want to draw your attention to. Sorry. Also, the contacts are not working so great right now. Last year, we did have an increase in the transient guest tax for the first time since 2008. We went from 7% to 8%. I'm sure you remember that. We are trending upward. We had a really positive occupancy, which is also trending with national data. We were up 8.1%, and then our revenue was up over 10%, actually higher than national data and the highest we've been since pre-pandemic 2019 levels. We have 424 rooms in Merriam. And I do want to put a plug in for the visitor spending in Kansas, $7.3 billion by over 36 million visitors. Without those dollars, they would also not generate over $700 million in taxes for state and local governments. So people are spending money. That's a good thing. We're grateful for our visitation in Merriam. Economic development was a new portion of what we do. And I have to say, it's been really enjoyable learning about our business community and helping to support them. We do have just over 500 businesses in Merriam. 123 of those are women and minority-owned businesses, and we had 44 new business licenses in the city in 2023. There's a couple of interesting stats here. I do want to point out that we have a corporation in Merriam, Seaboard, that was listed on many accolades and awards list, also the only Fortune 500 company on the list in the Metro last year. Also, shout out to Walnut Grove, who has been in Merriam with our first occupational license since 1956. We have some big things going on in Merriam, a couple of developments that you can see every day as you drive down Shawnee Mission Parkway and EB. We've also completed in partnership with the Plaza Library, Merriam Plaza Library, which is now open and beautiful. And you can also see that the Mercedes-Benz showroom will be taking shape. Those are some of our bigger projects across the city. Just a few of our accomplishments. I won't go over all of these. I know they're in your packet. I do want to point out that we did have the Quality Inn take the initiative to apply for the lodging grant program that you guys approved. And if you've not been to the hotel, I'm sure Alex would be more than happy to give you a walkthrough. He loves Merriam, can't speak highly enough about it, and is very grateful for this program. He did interior and exterior renovations, totaling over almost nearly $500,000. Also, I just want to state that Visitation is driven by big events in Kansas City. We had one last April with the NFL Draft. It was our highest April on record here in Merriam, with a 15.2% occupancy increase, 20% revenue increase. Also, a lot of economic development, new activities, new for me, new for our staff, new for our city. Hosted our first business appreciation luncheon, created our new welcome packet for Merriam businesses. Every time a new business comes into town, we send them a new welcome packet with lots of information. And we also offer a quarterly business development digest, which is just our way to communicate with our business community. We also have commercial properties for sale or lease also listed on our website now, which I know is something we've been striving to do for a number of years. So those are the big ticket items here that we accomplished this past year, and we're looking forward to another great year here in Merriam, serving our businesses and our residents and our visitors. Does anyone have any questions?
Any questions for Manager Crane? Go ahead, Ms. Hands.
Hello.
Is anyone else even nibbling at the grant, the hotel grant?
We've had 2 inquiries, and
Good.
so I would probably possibly expect to see an application in 2024. One has some stipulations that might not work for them, but we've had 2 more inquiries.
Good.
Yeah.
Good to hear.
Any other questions for Manager Crane?
Mayor, if I could, I just want to publicly thank and tell Karen that I appreciate her great efforts. She's really stepped up to her role in terms of economic development, educating herself in things that have not traditionally been in her role, and really helping us fill a void in terms of relationships with our businesses, pending and existing. We maybe didn't make that job any easier tonight for some of our businesses, but she's really done a fantastic job showcasing the businesses that we have in our community and the appreciation and the partnership that we really do try to cultivate. So I want to make sure that we give her acknowledgement for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. All right, May CIP update. Okay, Dr. Kupke's coming up.
The May CIP update is in your packet, and added a little map. I think you're familiar with all the projects. I did add in the gabion basket repair, which is a maintenance of the gabion baskets that are kind of falling apart on Quail Creek. The project isn't complicated, except that we need to access it through Advent Hospital, so we've been working with them for restoration. So I just wanted to point that out, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you have on any other project.
Any questions, Director Kumpke? Mr.
Not
Caldwell?
on these projects, but what's going on with the 75th Street Bridge? Any new updates?
I haven't heard back from Overland Park. They should be going out for qualifications for the design build. That's all I know right now.
Okay, thank you.
We do think about it every time we drive across.
Yes.
I go over that bridge a lot, so.
Reminds me, I didn't add that to the project.
Right, we need
I
it
will
on the
next time.
list, yeah.
Yeah.
And at some point, I would like to maybe talk to you more about the basket repair, because I'm having a hard time visualizing right where that is. Because there's a bunch of it that's by the park and behind Georgetown and.
Yeah, it's.
Further. We can talk.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Ms. Schmidt, did you have something?
I was just going to say thanks for the map. I think it's helpful. So thank you.
Good. And I know you've had a long meeting, but I've kind of changed around the CIP, add a map, had a PowerPoint. If anyone has any recommendations for any future, the way you want me to convey the information, just let me know.
Well done.
Okay, any other questions? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, informational items, Park and Recreation Advisory Board minutes were in the packet, unless you have questions for Director Slocum. No? Okay. Mr. Engel, do we have anything from staff?
I don't, Mayor, but I'm happy to answer any questions that you have of me.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Engel? I see no questions, and I don't think we have an executive session, so.
We do not.
I would entertain a motion. Ms.
Mr.
Hands.
Mayor, I move we adjourn.
Hey, we have a motion, do we have a second? Ms. Shatter?
Mr. Mayor, I second that.
Madam Clerk?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Meeting's adjourned.